Chapter 85. Radiance Federation, Royal Capital. This was the most prosperous place in the entire Radiance Federation. As far as the eye could see, Lin was always so harmonious. The noon sky was originally fine, but the sky had inadvertently turned gloomy. The burning ink-colored thick clouds extended their sharp claws at the clear sky. They were like evil devils that were greedy and cruel as they occupied the blue sky. The sky was pressed down by the ink-colored clouds, and it seemed to be a little lower out of nowhere. The sky above the royal capital had an oppressive feeling as though black clouds were pressing down on the city. There seemed to be a beautiful arc between darkness and light that was evenly divided into two halves. Everything happened in a flash, and the ink-colored clouds in the darkness exploded with a bright electric spark that was like a slithering silver snake. It was overturning the seas and rivers in the dark quagmire. The wind blew and ruffled the lake water outside the royal capital. It also blew off a few spots of messy red on the branches, turning them into scattered splendor. At that moment, in the royal capital's leaning moon mountain, in the radiant moon palace's garden, a woman in a moon-colored robe raised her head and looked at the sky. It was dark and gloomy, light and darkness, oppressive and relaxed, dignified and elegant, and it complemented each other in the sky. She looked at this perfectly fused scene and sighed softly. The morning sun clears up in seclusion, and the evening rain overshadows high in the sky. The breeze brushed past the loose hair on the woman's forehead, adding a touch of gentleness. The clash between extremes would always be the embodiment of nature's charm, and this charm could cleanse one's state of mind during a shock. The woman lowered her head and fiddled with the lotus flower in the water jar. The lotus flower seemed to have spirituality, and the crimson lotus flower emitted a fragrance between the woman's fingers. At that moment, an ice-cold female voice echoed beside the woman. "Moon Empress, this sunset jade leaf lotus has been nurtured by you in the garden for just over 2 years, and it has already evolved to diamond." The Moon Empress lowered her head, picked up an amber bottle, and sprayed the sunset jade leaf lotus with the liquid inside. The sunset jade leaf lotus leaves glowed with multicolored light as though it was a precious treasure. The mist that the woman sprayed out from the amber bottle had turned into a fragrance. This sunset jade leaf lotus might have evolved to diamond, but its diamond ability isn't a support type ability but an attack type ability. The Moon Empress' voice was a little regretful as she spoke to the woman with the ice-cold voice. "Sangyue, go and plant the sunset jade leaf lotus in the lotus pond at the back of the hall. It would be a waste to leave the lotus fragrance in the garden." Sangyu nodded. Suddenly, footsteps could be heard. As the footsteps got closer, a gentle male voice could be heard. "Moon Empress, the young prodigy that I gave you previously is the one who passed the Class 2 Creation Master exam in Redbud City during Ling Zhao's tenure. I have already confirmed that all 3 of the Lifestyle Class Spirit Chi professional exams have full marks. These questions were specially set by Elder Ning, and it is said that they are much trickier than the Lifestyle Class Union's exams." The man's voice made the Moon Empress raise her head, and her eyes lit up. He completed the Class 2 Creation Master exam at the age of 18 and actually scored full marks for the 3 Lifestyle Class Spirit Chi occupation exams. He is truly worthy of the title, Young Prodigy. The man's gentle voice continued. "Moon Empress, I have already informed Ling Zhao to bring the little genius over. You did a good job, Xianyu." Following the Moon Empress' statement, the noisy wind that was blowing in the garden suddenly stopped, and there were no more disturbances. It was unknown if the wind had coincidentally stopped, or if the woman's words had stopped the disturbance. Xianyu quickly bowed. "These are all things that I should do. But Moon Empress, the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association has heard that you have the intention to accept a disciple and has chosen Creation Master Feng Yang, who is known as the #1 prodigy among the Creation Masters." Before the Moon Empress could speak, Sangyue's ice-cold voice echoed first. "Creation Master Feng Yang. A young Creation Master actually has a title? Could he already be a Class 4 Creation Master at such a young age?" Xianyu looked at Sangyue and smiled before replying in a gentle voice. "No matter how much of a prodigy a Class 4 Creation Master is, it is not a position that can be reached by the younger generation. This creation master Feng Yang is only a class 2 creation master, but it is said that he is already qualified to be promoted to a class 3 creation master. The title, Feng Yang, is given by the Creation Master Association's 3 vice presidents to encourage him. He is now 24 years old. Sang Yue's expression didn't change, and her voice was still cold. Feng Yang. By the heavens' order to bestow the light of the sun. He. Such a title is truly impressive. Could it be that this creation master Feng Yang can lead the radiance? The Moon Empress laughed in response. Sang Yue, only you can say such words. However, with this encouragement, I believe that this creation master Feng Yang must have been carefully nurtured by the Creation Master Association. After hearing the Moon Empress' words, Sang Yue twitched her mouth and said, only you can say such words. Once I heard that my lord has the intention to accept disciples, the Creation Master Association had the intention to send over 7 or 8 individuals. If Feng Yang is truly outstanding, why didn't he send him over earlier? Now that he is sent over with a title, who knows if it is a new title? Sang Yue nodded. You are right, Sang Yue. This creation master Feng Yang is called Qing Rui, and he was the first to be sent over by the Creation Master Association. Back then, the Moon Empress rejected him because she was too busy. Now that he has a title, he is sent over again. I wonder what the Moon Empress thinks of him. The Moon Empress waved her hand. Forget it. Since the Creation Master Association has been so generous twice, this Empress won't reject it. When the young prodigy comes over, ask the Creation Master Association to bring this self-titled Creation Master Feng Yang over as well. Sang Yue responded in response. Yes, Moon Empress. At the same time, Dean Wang of the Royal Capital Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy has also recommended someone to you. He isn't just a Creation Master, but he is also the Radiance 100 Sequences number 3 seat. His nickname is Overflowing Sea. The Moon Empress replied, then bring him over as well. Then bring him along. Let the little prodigy witness the strength of those who stand at the peak of the younger generation. When Sang Yue heard the Moon Empress' words, her cold voice suddenly had a hint of surprise. Moon Empress is so considerate for the young prodigy. Could it be that you are planning to accept the young prodigy as a disciple? Wouldn't Sang Yue and I have an additional young master? The Moon Empress smiled. I will only know if he succeeds after I personally test him. The Moon Empress might be saying this, but she recalled the information that Sang Yue had sent over. That stack of words recorded the scenes of a youth trying to survive with his younger sister. After the Spirit Guard's loyalty, he sent his younger sister to school, and he did his best to prepare Phase for his younger sister. When doing business, he adhered to principles and wasn't arrogant or rash. These qualities were what the Moon Empress admired. Character was precious, and at certain times, it was even more important than talent. However, she would only know after she truly saw him. As one of the Moon Empress' 2 moon envoys, Sang Yue was currently going to the Creation Master Association and the Royal Capital Advanced Spirit Chi University to pass on the Moon Empress information. However, when she left, Sang Yue already knew that she was going to have an additional young master. Otherwise, with the Moon Empress' temper, she wouldn't reveal the slightest bit of favoritism. Sang Yue, follow me to the breeding room. You are going to be teacher's person, and you must prepare the necessary greeting gifts. The Moon Empress was thinking about how much the Chef Supreme and Bamboo Monarch treasured their disciples. The Moon Empress expressed that it was just child's play. Chapter 86. The Scarlet Feather Fire Eagle's flying speed was extremely fast and soon arrived at Redbud City. Lin Yuan stood on the Scarlet Feather Fire Eagle's back and looked over, but he couldn't see the entire city. It was obvious how vast Redbud City was. The Scarlet Feather Fire Eagle didn't stop, but it wasn't like how Lin Yuan's previous flying phase stopped at the designated landing spot in Redbud City. Instead, it flew straight into the Redbud City's City Lordess residence and stopped on the limestone steps outside the City Lordess residence. Lord Lin Yuan, follow me in. I reckon that Lord Ling Shao has been waiting for a long time. This statement made Lin Yuan's brows raise. When he received Ling Wu's notification, he immediately went to the Xia region's county governor's residence without any delay. Therefore, it wasn't because he was slow, but because in Ling Wu's heart, Ling Xiao was in a hurry to see him. Since Lin Yuan couldn't think of a reason, Lin Yuan didn't want to think about it anymore. In any case, when he saw Ling Xiao, he believed that Ling Xiao would give him an answer. Lin Yuan followed Ling Wu into the city lordess residence's grand hall, and Ling Xiao was the only one there. After Ling Wu brought Lin Yuan over, he reported to Ling Xiao and went to busy himself with his own matters. Ling Xiao looked at Lin Yuan, and his expressionless face didn't show any joy. However, Lin Yuan could feel the joy in Ling Xiao's actions. It must have been a tiring journey. Have a meal with me at noon, and I will bring you to the royal capital in the afternoon. After hearing the words royal capital, Lin Yuan's previous doubts seemed to be answered. It seemed like the benefits that even Elder Ning was envious of were in the royal capital. The benefits of the royal capital and creation masters could even make a class 4 creation master like Elder Ning envious. Could it be related to the three majesties above the clouds? City Lordess, this kid isn't tired. May I know why we are going to the royal capital? Ling Xiao hesitated for a moment and asked. The Moon Empress wishes to meet you. He didn't say anything else. Originally, if Lin Yuan didn't ask, Ling Xiao didn't intend to say anything and would just bring Lin Yuan to the Moon Empress. As for the Moon Empress' intention to accept a disciple, Ling Xiao might know about it, but he wouldn't reveal it to Lin Yuan. Ling Xiao really hoped that the Moon Empress disciple would be in Redbud City. Mentioning the leak might give him a better idea and prepare to perform well in advance. However, Ling Xiao also understood what could be said and what could not be said. As it was related to the Moon Empress' thoughts, Ling Xiao didn't dare to say much. Keeping his mouth shut was the best choice. Lin Yuan didn't expect that he had guessed correctly. It seemed like the great benefit that Elder Ning mentioned was related to the Moon Empress. Ling Xiao sized up Lin Yuan and said, Before eating, go take a bath and change your clothes. I will get someone to prepare your clothes. You must not be rude when meeting the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan suddenly felt as though he was being despised. She looked at the pair of jeans she was wearing and the white half-sleeved shirt she was wearing. She then looked at Ling Xiao's eyes. Lin Yuan was sure that he was really being despised. Ling Xiao called two people over, and they were the city lord residence's staff members. Ling Xiao asked them to bring Lin Yuan to take a bath and change his clothes. After cleaning up, Ling Xiao's eyes lit up when she saw Lin Yuan again. What he had chosen for Lin Yuan was nothing more than a set of standard spirit chi clothing. The black spirit chi clothing had some dark patterns, a fitting cut, and a matte texture with some simple metal decorations. When Lin Yuan was wearing such a simple spirit chi clothing, even Ling Xiao couldn't help but say that the person on top of the world was like jade, and the young master was unparalleled. Apart from his handsomeness, there was also a kind of calmness. This was a kind of aura that was previously concealed by Lin Yuan's clothing. Now that this aura was being emitted, it really added a little manly aura to Lin Yuan. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the lunch wasn't simple. There were 8 dishes on the table, and only he and Ling Xiao were eating. Most of the ingredients for the dishes were from gold phase. This meal made Lin Yuan understand what it meant to be rich and imposing. This meal was equivalent to eating half a gold fei. It would at least cost close to 10,000 radiance dollars. However, when the dishes entered his stomach, Lin Yuan could vaguely feel that the spirit chi in his body was constantly increasing. The food made from gold's spiritual ingredients actually had the effect of slowly increasing one's cultivation. When Ling Xiao saw that Lin Yuan was almost done eating, she said to the butler, "Prepare another portion of Spirit Swamp Rhino's milk." Spirit Swamp Rhino was a platinum fei, and it was said that its milk had an extremely strong bone-strengthening effect. The Spirit Swamp Rhino was a platinum fei, and it was said that the Spirit Swamp Rhino's milk had an extremely strong bone-strengthening effect. It was actually made into a double-skin milk dessert. After eating this meal, Lin Yuan somewhat understood that cultivation was really like rolling a snowball. When it was a small snowball, it was very hard to roll it into a big snowball. If one used too much force in the middle, the snowball would scatter. But when the small snowball became a big snowball, no matter how much it rolled on the ground, it might not scatter, but it would be hard to feel the snowball's volume increase. Therefore, if the snowball's volume wanted to increase, one had to do their best to not let go of any of the snow and fuse all of it into the body. This was also why high-tier spirit chi professionals would use large amounts of food to supplement their cultivation while cultivating. Lin Yuan could feel the changes in his body's spirit chi and bones. Lin Yuan could not help but think that he could still afford the food made from bronze spiritual ingredients. In fact, he could even occasionally eat a few meals made from silver spiritual ingredients. Should he prepare meals made of these spiritual ingredients for himself and Chu Si as well? After the meal, Ling Xiao summoned her aerial spirit beast. Lin Yuan looked over and saw that this spirit beast horse was snow white with a blue jade horn on its head. It also had a pair of giant white wings with specks of sapphire blue. It looked very handsome and elegant. Using true data, Lin Yuan found out that this elegant-looking horse was actually a fantasy breed. It was even a diamond fantasy breed, Blue Jade Pegasus. When Lin Yuan rode on the Blue Jade Pegasus with Ling Xiao, he really did not expect that he would actually be riding on the back of a fantasy breed fae. The Blue Jade Pegasus flapped its wings and soared into the sky. The sharp horn on its head drew across the sky with a dreamy blue color and a jade-like luster. It had a little of the feeling of Lantian's warm jade smoke. The Blue Jade Pegasus flew at an extremely fast speed, and when Lin Yuan looked at the ground, he felt that the mountains and rivers on the ground were like illusions. Even with the Blue Jade Pegasus speed, it will take over a day to travel from Redbud City to the royal capital. During this period of time, you can recuperate on the back of the Pegasus. Lin Yuan nodded in agreement. City Lord, even with the Blue Jade Pegasus speed, it actually takes over a day to reach the royal capital. The royal capital is really far from Redbud City. Lin Yuan looked at the illusory mountains and rivers under his feet and could not help but click his tongue again. Chapter 87. Ling Xiao looked at the illusory mountains and rivers beneath his feet, which were constantly changing as the Blue Jade Pegasus flapped its wings. Redbud City isn't considered far from the royal capital. Among the 32 cities, Redbud City is located in the south-central region and is considered the 14th closest city to the royal capital. The extreme north's Cold Frost City, the extreme south's Blazing Flame City, and the west's Marsh Roost City are considered the further cities. Even with the Blue Jade Pegasus's speed, it will take at least half a month to reach. Ling Xiao didn't usually speak much, but he was willing to explain to Lin Yuan. As Lin Yuan listened to Ling Xiao's description, he felt that the knowledge he learned from books was ultimately just a number. No matter how shocking the number was, it couldn't compare to sitting on a fantasy breed fae and feeling its speed, using time to measure the Radiance Federation's vastness. If we travel by water, will the time be shorter? Lin Yuan realized that Ling Xiao had been guiding the Blue Jade Pegasus to travel on land. Even if they passed through water, it would be inland rivers and lakes and never the sea. Ling Xiao used his hand to caress the Blue Jade Pegasus's neck and combed its fur, but his expression turned grave. When you possess a fae that can fly in the sky, the first lesson you have to learn is not to fly above the sea. After the Spirit Chi awakening, the sea, which humans could freely fish before the Spirit Chi awakening, had become the most dangerous region after the Spirit Chi awakening. No matter how vast the land was, it would only occupy less than 40% of the planet, and the remaining 60% was the sea. The sea was deep and undetectable. Even in the coastal waters, one might encounter a wild gold fae. A gold fish-type fae could easily overturn a fishing boat in the sea. Occasionally, platinum faes would come to the coastal waters, which made the coastal waters exceptionally dangerous. If one were to fly above the sea and encounter a giant whale fae, the giant whale fae might accidentally spit out a water pillar and shoot it down, resulting in death or injury. Lin Yuan could hear the seriousness in Ling Xiao's words, and he immediately remembered them. He engraved these words firmly in his heart, but he still asked. Even a diamond/fantasy breed fae can't do it? Ling Xiao turned around and looked at Lin Yuan with a look of admiration. He did not expect Lin Yuan to be able to tell that this blue jade Pegasus was a diamond/fantasy breed fae. It wasn't hard to see that the blue jade Pegasus was a fantasy breed, but in order for Lin Yuan to ride it comfortably, Ling Xiao had already restrained the blue jade Pegasus' prowess. Lin Yuan could still tell that the blue jade Pegasus was a fantasy breed. Such insight wasn't something that a person who had just become a Class 2 creation master would have. However, while Ling Xiao was full of praise, the words that came out of his mouth were especially serious. These serious words made Lin Yuan's hair stand on end. Because there might be myth breed fays in the deep sea. Myth breed? Lin Yuan asked. Lin Yuan had never heard of myth breed before. In fact, there was no mention of it in the star web. But for some reason, these three words seemed to have a magic power that shook people's hearts. Yes, a myth breed. It was an existence that was superior to the fantasy breed. When a fae reached the legend grade and fused with the world willpower to form a willpower rune, it could be called a fantasy breed. Fantasy breed fays had already surpassed the scope of science and were fays that only existed in fantasy. As for myth breed, it transforms shallow fantasies into real myths. Every myth breed fae that appears is equivalent to a myth, and each fae's power is enough to create a myth. When talking about the myth breed, Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with deep yearning and respect. Ling Xiao's words had opened the door to a new world for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had always thought that fantasy breeds were the pinnacle. As a creation master, Lin Yuan knew that fays had limitless possibilities to evolve, but he didn't expect it to be a myth above fantasy. When Ling Xiao saw Lin Yuan's shocked expression, he thought to himself. If Lin Yuan could become the Moon Empress disciple, it wouldn't be too early to say this. Then Lin Yuan would be able to touch the myth realm. After all, the Moon Empress was a living legend. Lin Yuan, the myth breed is a secret that the Radiance Federation hasn't publicized on Star Web, so don't spread it. Also, do you know how the grades of fantasy breed fays are divided? Lin Yuan still couldn't understand Ling Xiao's question. However, the answers to these questions aroused his desire for the unknown. Junior doesn't know, please tell me, City Lord. Ling Xiao pointed at the blue jade Pegasus and said. This blue jade Pegasus is a Class 1 fantasy breed fae. Fantasy breed fays are classified as Fantasy V, and every transformation is equivalent to one sublimation. Lin Yuan firmly engraved the words Fantasy V transformation in his heart. Ling Xiao looked at Lin Yuan and suddenly said, that's right. If you have the ability, when you become a creation master, don't let your combat strength fall behind. Lin Yuan was deeply moved by Ling Xiao's words. Creation masters were just powerful means to evolve fays. Although it was also considered a kind of strength, at certain times, a combat class spirit chi professional's ability was the foundation of one's survival. At this point, neither Ling Xiao nor Lin Yuan spoke again. The sun set in the west and night fell. The thin air in the sky was chilly. After October, it was already autumn. The bright moon hung in the sky, and when Lin Yuan looked at the bright moon, he felt that the bright moon was within reach. But when he reached out, the bright moon felt like it was the furthest distance in the world. Lin Yuan looked at the bright moon for a night until dawn broke and the sun and moon alternated. Lin Yuan suddenly comprehended something while the sun and moon alternated, and a willpower rune that looked like the alternation of yin and yang appeared in Lin Yuan's spiritual world. Lin Yuan closed his eyes and felt the willpower rune that was born from the sun and moon alternating. Ling Xiao's eyes were wide open. Even if Ling Xiao lost his 7 emotions, he couldn't help but want to curse. What a freaking genius! This kid on my blue jade Pegasus actually comprehended a willpower rune while looking at the sunrise. When did willpower runes become so easy to comprehend? If Ling Xiao didn't have a willpower rune and Lin Yuan was extremely close, Ling Xiao wouldn't have been able to sense the formation of Lin Yuan's willpower rune. However, Ling Xiao didn't know that Lin Yuan had more than one willpower rune. There were 3 willpower runes in Lin Yuan's mind, and they were constantly flying around Lin Yuan's spiritual energy. Chapter 88. Ling Xiao was amazed at Lin Yuan's talent. Lin Yuan had comprehended a willpower rune just by looking at a sunrise, and Ling Xiao couldn't help but want to trample on Lin Yuan. However, Ling Xiao circulated his spiritual power, which was suffused with a cyclone, to isolate the air currents in the sky. It allowed Lin Yuan to be in the most suitable environment to comprehend and silently guard him. When Lin Yuan opened his eyes, Ling Xiao withdrew his spiritual power and said to Lin Yuan seriously, "After comprehending a willpower rune, you will be one step closer to becoming a fantasy breed. Now that you have comprehended the willpower rune, you are one step closer to becoming a fantasy breed. However, remember this. If you want your Fae to reach the 3rd transformation of Fantasy V, don't let it evolve into a fantasy breed after reaching Platinum." When Lin Yuan heard Ling Xiao's words, he couldn't help but ask. "What if I want to reach Fantasy V? I don't know how to achieve Fantasy V, but it is best to evolve my Fae's quality to Legend at Gold grade and transform it into a fantasy breed. Otherwise, unless I have a great fortuitous encounter, I will be stuck at Fantasy 3 for the rest of my life." Lin Yuan remembered Ling Xiao's words. These words were very precious to a combat class spirit chi professional who had just comprehended a willpower rune. If I can evolve a bronze Fae to Legend and evolve it into a fantasy breed, will I have a chance to reach the 5th transformation of Fantasy V? Ling Xiao took a deep breath and glanced at Lin Yuan. "Do you think it is as easy to evolve a bronze Fae to Legend or a gold Fae to Legend?" "It is more than 100 times harder to evolve a bronze Fae to Legend than a gold Fae to Legend. Even a Class 4 Creation Master might not be able to do it even if they go all out. Furthermore, do you think that willpower runes are so easy to obtain? Even among the Radiance 100's younger generation, not everyone has a fantasy breed. Most of them aren't stuck at Legend, but at the willpower rune. Indeed, becoming a member of the Radiance 100 sequence would allow one to enjoy the Radiance Federation's resources, and the Creation Master's resources would be ample. Even if a gold Fae couldn't evolve to Legend, it shouldn't be a problem to evolve to Legend at Platinum." However, Lin Yuan didn't feel that a willpower rune was difficult. The arrival of his 3 willpower runes was as smooth as drinking water. It was so natural. Ling Xiao's words reminded Lin Yuan of something. Lin Yuan had always subconsciously regarded the difficulty of evolving Faes above bronze to Legend as the same. Whether it was bronze, silver, or gold, as long as the spirit energy was in place, it would be successful with the right combination of spirit materials. But now, Lin Yuan realized that he was wrong. This situation was only suitable for him and not other creation masters. Lin Yuan didn't have to worry about evolving Faes to Legend, but he didn't have any good solutions for his source-type life form, Red Thorn. It could be said that Red Thorn's evolution was a huge problem that Lin Yuan was facing. Even now, he did not have any good ideas. After flying for 1 day and 1 night, he could already see the royal capital's silhouette under the rising sun. The majestic royal capital was very magnificent, and under the rising sun, Lin Yuan's heart was filled with lofty sentiments. "Royal capital, I, Lin Yuan, am coming. Yo, isn't this the Radiance 100 sequence's Lord Overflowing Sea? The Radiance 100 should be participating in the trial mission now. Why is Lord Overflowing Sea here at the Leaning Moon Mountain?" The one speaking was a youth with thin lips. When he spoke, he might have a sincere smile on his face, and his actions were passionate, but his true feelings and passion couldn't conceal that kind of fake feeling. Cheng Rui looked at the Radiance 100 sequence's Lord Overflowing Sea, Long Tao, who was standing beside him with an arrogant expression. Lin Yuan felt the pressure increase. Long Tao might be the Radiance 100 sequence's Lord Overflowing Sea and a powerful combat class spirit chi professional. At the same time, he was also an extremely talented creation master. Cheng Rui's combat ability couldn't be compared with Long Tao's, but in terms of creation master talent, he might not have competed with Long Tao before, but he was certain that he was stronger than Long Tao. After all, he was known as the most talented creation master of the younger generation and had the title of Feng Yang when he was just a Class 2 creation master. Long Tao didn't even look at Cheng Rui. Instead, he looked at the elder standing behind Cheng Rui and said, "Lord Overflowing Sea, since you aren't being sincere, then don't call me that. Since the title Lord Overflowing Sea isn't sincere, then don't call me that. I have never liked to play around. A Class 2 creation master already has a title, and we are around the same age. Why don't the Creation Master Association give me, Long Tao, a title too?" Long Tao's words had a hidden meaning. He wasn't just targeting Cheng Rui, but also the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association that was standing behind Cheng Rui. Long Tao wasn't the only one dissatisfied with the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association's actions. The Royal Capital's Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy was also dissatisfied. No matter how high one's potential was, once one reached that status, one would naturally be given a glorious title. To be given a title at Class 2 and to proclaim that one had the #1 talent among the younger generation of creation masters, it would definitely make many talented youths feel dissatisfied. Cheng Rui's face immediately turned pale. The elder standing behind Cheng Rui quickly said, "Long kid, your words are too much. Little dragon, you've gone too far with your words. Cheng Rui is indeed capable and worthy of this title." The elder behind Cheng Rui was the vice president of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association and had accumulated prestige for a long time. He was currently choking on Long Tao's words. However, with Long Tao's status, even he didn't dare to reprimand Long Tao for being the Radiance 100's #3 seat. Furthermore, Long Tao was standing beside the dean of the Royal Capital's Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy. The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association and the Royal Capital's Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy had always been in a competitive relationship. If Long Tao said a few more words, this old fellow who had been competing with him for many years would probably join the battle. Long Tao still had the same expression and didn't even look at Cheng Rui. "A few days ago, I successfully passed the Class 3 Creation Master exam at the Ascending Dragon City's Creation Master Association. If Cheng Rui is capable enough to accept this title, I wonder if I can also obtain the title that the Creation Master Association prepared in advance. However, even if the Creation Master Association prepared a title, I will not accept it. Once I become a Class 4 Creation Master, I will naturally take the title that belongs to me." Long Tao's words were like slaps after slaps. There was nothing wrong with his words, but they were all ruthlessly slapping Cheng Rui's face. Long Tao's words caused the vice president of the Creation Master Association's face to turn green and pale, and he had a displeased expression. But in the end, Long Tao's words weren't wrong. Had it not been for the Moon Empress accepting a disciple, no matter how talented Cheng Rui was, he wouldn't have prepared a title at Class 2. He had prepared a title just to solidify his reputation as a young creation master. But now, Long Tao was already a Class 3 creation master. Even if Cheng Rui had the potential to become a Class 3 creation master, he was ultimately not a Class 3 creation master. The vice president of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association didn't look at Cheng Rui with as much confidence as before. However, after thinking about it, the Moon Empress' acceptance of a disciple was ultimately her choice. The Moon Empress only had a single thought as to who she would choose. Chapter 89. The Dean of the Royal Capital Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy stood there and was spinning 2 jade spheres in his hand. He looked at the Creation Master Association's vice president and said, "Old thing. The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association can't even nurture creation masters better than our academy. Therefore, the title of #1 creation master among the youth generation doesn't belong to your association, but our academy." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man holding the jade ball laughed out loud. This laughter was very forthright, and it sounded like it came from the bottom of his heart. However, it was also this laughter that angered the Creation Master Association's vice president to tremble slightly. It was obvious that he was rather angry. "Old thing, What is there to be happy about? After all, Long Tao is a registered Class 3 Creation Master in our Ascending Dragon City's Creation Master Association. He is also considered a member of our Creation Master Association. The Dean of the Royal Capital Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy stopped spinning the jade sphere in his hand and turned around with a flabbergasted expression. You rotten old man, you are too shameless. How can you say such things? Why don't you ask if the Ascending Dragon City's Creation Master Association is the same as your Royal Capital's Creation Master Association? If that's the case, then all the Federation's students are also our Academy's students. The Creation Master Associations in the various cities were in a competitive relationship. Each city's Creation Master Association would strive for the city's Creation Master resources. Whichever city's Creation Master exam was the same as being recorded in the city's Creation Master resources. The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association might be located in the Royal Capital and was just like the headquarters of the various Creation Master Associations. However, the actual situation wasn't like this. Instead of saying that it was the headquarters of the various Creation Master Associations, it was better to say that it was the #1 rival of the various Creation Master Associations. The two elders had immediately started arguing at the foot of the Leaning Moon Mountain. It made Cheng Rui and Long Tao feel rather awkward. Cheng Rui didn't dare to mention that he was the #1 Creation Master among the youth generation in front of Long Tao. In fact, when he thought about his title, he didn't feel as proud as before and felt rather ashamed. However, Long Tao obviously didn't plan to let Cheng Rui off so easily. I saw your interview on the Star Web. Your appearance on the Star Web is different from your current appearance. You look like a leader of the youth generation on the Star Web. Long Tao's words were faint, but there was no doubt that these words were more like a heavy punch than the previous slap. Cheng Rui was so angry that his face turned from green to purple. Long Tao. Don't go too far. You are 1 year older than me. 1 year later, I will also become a Class 3 Creation Master. Your Creation Master talent might not be better than mine. He's just a year older than me. If Long Tao had been interested in talking to Cheng Rui before, he didn't even have the slightest interest in talking to him now. A person who couldn't even face his own weaknesses and instead looked for excuses. In Long Tao's eyes, such behavior was already the performance of a weakling. After Long Tao entered the Radiance 100 sequence, the competitors he faced were generally a few years older than him. The oldest among them was 10 years older than him. This was because the Radiance 100 could only stay for 10 years at most. Long Tao had overcome all obstacles along the way and had used 4 years to ascend to the 3rd seat. His Creation Master methods hadn't been neglected either. It was because Long Tao never found an excuse for his failure. Instead, he faced failure head-on, analyzed it, and finally cherished it. He cherished it because the number of failures was getting lesser and nearing zero. Cheng Rui's method was exactly what Long Tao despised. You can't be thinking of saying that life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully the young for being poor, right? The words that Cheng Rui wanted to say were stuck in Long Tao's throat again. At this moment, Cheng Rui finally understood that he couldn't win against Long Tao with words. He would only be asking for trouble if he continued. Cheng Rui had never interacted with Long Tao before. Long Tao had always taken the domineering and fierce route during the competition, and he wasn't good with words during interviews. Cheng Rui didn't expect him to be a chatterbox that could anger someone to death. At this moment, a gentle and clear voice echoed from the clear moon. I'm here to meet Elder Du and Elder Meng on the Moon Empress orders. This gentle voice made Long Tao narrow his eyes. The voice sounded as though it was right beside him, but it also felt as though it was nowhere to be found. After calming down for a long time, Long Tao still couldn't hear the source of the voice. On the other hand, Elder Du, the Vice President of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association, and Elder Meng, the Dean of the Royal Capital's Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy, spoke to the sky. Thank you, Mystic Moon Envoy. As Elder Du and Elder Meng's voices echoed, it was unknown when a man wearing a silver robe was standing on the tunnel at the foot of a clear moon. He was walking over unhurriedly, but in just 2 steps, he had already traversed a distance of dozens of steps and arrived in front of Elder Du and Elder Meng. Elder Du, Elder Meng is still as graceful as before, but you can't go up the mountain now. We still need to wait for a noble person to arrive. After speaking, Mystic Moon shut his mouth. Elder Du and Elder Meng looked at each other and saw shock in each other's eyes. Mystic Moon was a King-class expert and had already caught a glimpse of the pinnacle of King-class. His contracted phase were mainly spiritual type, even though he was just a support-type spirit chi professional. If an expert of the same rank were to say that the most troublesome enemy they would face, it would definitely be a spirit chi professional with a spiritual type fey. Putting aside Mystic Moon's strength, he was one of the Moon Empress' 2 moon envoys. No matter where he went, he would represent the Moon Empress' will. Mystic Moon might look gentle, but his actions were abnormally domineering. He was like a blade that was hidden in the pure white snow, invisible and formless. However, when he made contact, his head would be separated from his body. Mystic Moon might not be as unreasonable as Cold Moon, but he was abnormally arrogant. Making the 2 of them wait here for a noble person. The word noble person meant that the visitor should be rather familiar with the Moon Empress and could be considered as one of them. Otherwise, he would only be called a noble guest and not a noble person. To be able to bear the word noble from Mystic Moon, it was imaginable what kind of status this visitor had. Elder Du and Elder Meng pulled Qing Rui and Long Tao, who were still quarreling, to the side. Even Long Tao, who was the Radiance 100's 3rd seat, had withdrawn his aura and looked abnormally obedient. At that moment, a snow-white Pegasus with sharp blue jade-like horns and blue jade-like wings flew over from the distance and headed straight for the Leaning Moon Mountain. Mystic Moon, who had a gentle but expressionless face, pulled up a smile. At that moment, the blue jade Pegasus had already landed. Ling Xiao brought Lin Yuan down from the Pegasus' back. Elder Du and Elder Meng only glanced at Ling Xiao for a moment before looking away. They fixed their eyes on Lin Yuan, who was standing at the side. Lin Yuan's hair was a little messy due to the wind, but when he stood under the sunlight, he had an indescribable aura. Chapter 90. Of course, Elder Du and Elder Meng knew Ling Xiao. However, even the city lord of Redbud City was not worthy of Xian Yu's title. In that case, the only person that Xian Yu would refer to as a benefactor was the youth standing beside Ling Xiao. Apart from Ling Xiao, Lin Yuan could clearly feel 5 pairs of eyes staring at him. Feeling the gazes coming towards him, he didn't know these people. However, out of courtesy, Lin Yuan nodded in acknowledgement and took the opportunity to greet them. Ling Xiao wanted to introduce them, but Xian Yu's gentle and clear voice rang out. Everyone is here. Follow me to the Leaning Moon Mountain. Lin Yuan, come to my side. Let's go together. Lin Yuan had long noticed the silver-robed man who had spoken. The silver-robed man's aura was like a deep sea that had no ripples on its surface despite the turbulent undercurrents. But he didn't expect that this silver-robed man would actually recognize him. Lin Yuan looked at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's throat moved a little, but he didn't say anything. He just nodded at Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan simply walked to Mystic Moon's side. Mystic Moon let out a bright smile and led Lin Yuan up the mountain. Ling Xiao, Elder Meng, and Elder Du walked together, while Long Tao and Qing Rui stood on either side. The 5 of them followed Lin Yuan and Mystic Moon. At this time, Elder Du and Elder Meng looked at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao greeted Elder Du and Elder Meng expressionlessly. Just as Elder Meng and Elder Du thought. Elder Meng and Elder Du looked at Lin Yuan with a complicated gaze. It turned out that the young man who had lit up her eyes just now was also here to pick peaches. Looking at Mystic Moon's behavior, could it be that the Moon Empress already had feelings for this youth called Lin Yuan? Long Tao looked at Lin Yuan with a probing gaze. Qing Rui looked at Lin Yuan with jealousy and complicated eyes. After Elder Meng and Elder Du asked Ling Xiao a few questions, they understood Lin Yuan's identity. It turned out that Lin Yuan was the fellow who had passed the Class 2 Creation Master exam in Redbud City. After the Creation Master Association was first reformed in Redbud City, it was now implemented in the Radiance Federation's 32 cities. What was the deeper meaning behind this? Elder Du and Elder Meng were well aware of this, but they didn't expect someone to meet such stringent requirements. And this person came so quickly. Long Tao's expression was calm, but Cheng Rui's face was obviously filled with dissatisfaction. Cheng Rui gritted his teeth. He was just a young kid who had just passed the Class 2 Creation Master exam. What was so great about him? Perhaps it was just a moment of luck. Now that he was about to have the ability to pass the Class 3 Creation Master exam, wouldn't it be as easy to crush this kid? Looking at Cheng Rui's expression, Long Tao burst into laughter. Why don't you calculate how much younger he is than you? Cheng Rui's face was full of expressions, especially after hearing Long Tao's words. At this moment, he looked as if he had eaten 30 lemons and 30 bitter gourds. It had to be said that the Leaning Moon Mountain was full of sceneries. Lin Yuan opened True Data. Along the way, apart from talking to Mystic Moon, he saw gold phase everywhere on the mountain. He even saw plenty of platinum phase. Most of these phase were plant species phase, and one could occasionally see some butterflies, dragonflies, bees, and small birds. Rare spiritual objects that were rarely seen in the outside world could be seen everywhere in the Leaning Moon Mountain. Xian Yu said. A few more steps and we will reach the Radiant Moon Palace. Xian Yu's words weren't just for Lin Yuan, but also for the people behind her. After passing through the mountain's gallery, Lin Yuan saw a palace that looked as though it was made of fluorite. The palace's main body was pure white like white jade, but it was emitting lustrous light just like the light emitted from the moon. In front of the palace, there were 2 trees that were close to 10 meters tall. The trees were blooming with clusters of small gold and silver flowers, and the flowers were pressing down on the branches. These 2 trees were actually silver stamen gold luster caches. Lin Yuan felt as though he was going to fall when he saw True Data. These 2 silver stamen gold luster caches were both diamond rank level 10. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that these 2 silver stamen gold luster caches' quality had actually reached legend. Such cardinal treasures were planted at the palace's entrance without anyone contracting them, and they were just a scenery in front of the palace. This was truly unimaginable to Lin Yuan. When Xian Yu saw Lin Yuan looking at these 2 silver stamen gold luster caches, she took the initiative to introduce them to Lin Yuan. These 2 caches are rather good-looking, so they were planted here. The silver stamen gold luster caches are rather strange, but they don't have any fragrance. However, these osmanthus flowers are extremely delicious when used to make osmanthus honey. Cold Moon is very good at making osmanthus honey. I will get Cold Moon to scoop a bowl for you in a while. Phase like the silver stamen gold luster caches were already beyond Lin Yuan's knowledge. With True Data, Lin Yuan could only know what it was called. Lin Yuan might not be clear, but Ling Xiao, Elder Du, and Elder Meng all knew what it was. Xian Yu said that a bowl of osmanthus honey was casually given to Lin Yuan. Even these 3 experts with high authority couldn't help but want to try and see if they could ask for a portion, even if it was just a few drops. The silver stamen gold luster cache's nectar was a good thing to wash away impurities in the body. When others used a drop, they would have to dissolve it in a cup of water and consume it a few times. If Lin Yuan were to drink this bowl of silver stamen gold luster caches, he would probably be able to wash away all the impurities in his body. There were only 2 silver stamen gold luster caches in the world, and they were both in the hands of the Moon Empress, which was planted in front of the Radiant Moon Palace. Every year, the Moon Empress would give 10 drops to the Royal Capital Advanced Spirit Chi University and the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. However, a few dozen years' worth of it was probably not enough to make a bowl. Xian Yu, I was the one who made the osmanthus honey, but you are giving it to someone else. If someone is to give it, it should be me. To Lin Yuan, the speaker's voice was as cold as the bone-chilling icy water in a cold pool. Lin Yuan looked at the woman and noticed that the blue-robed woman was also sizing him up. Xian Yu let out a bright smile. All right, Cold Moon, bring them in to see the Moon Empress. I still have a mission for the Moon Empress. Cold Moon nodded and said to everyone. Follow me into the Radiant Moon Palace. After entering the Radiant Moon Palace, Lin Yuan felt that every corner of the Radiant Moon Palace's front corridor was filled with elegance. There was a high platform on the front corridor, and there were 2 boxes on the table. Cold Moon pulled Lin Yuan to her side and looked at Elder Du and Elder Meng. The Moon Empress means that there is a treasure in each of the 2 boxes on the high platform. Both sides can let the younger generation come up and pick the box. The treasure in the box will be the Moon Empress reward. Cold Moon's words made Elder Du and Elder Meng's eyes lit up. At the same time, they couldn't understand why there were only 2 brocade boxes when there were 3 people in the younger generation. Lin Yuan stood beside Cold Moon and watched calmly. Chapter 91. Long Tao and Cheng Rui stepped forward. After receiving instructions from their elders, they walked toward the high platform. Just as he stood on the high platform, one of the 4 maidservants who had been standing in the 4 corners of the hall stepped forward. In a flash, he appeared on the high platform. The woman looked to be in her 30s, but she gave off a delicate feeling. I am one of the tea attendants of the Radiant Moon Palace, and my name is Kai Cha. I am here to inform you that the treasure in the golden box is better than the treasure in the gray box. With that, he bowed to Tsang Yu. After Tsang Yu nodded, he retreated to the edge of the platform. He didn't return to his previous spot in the corner of the hall. One of the 2 boxes on the platform was gold and the other was gray. Lin Yuan saw Long Tao and Cheng Rui's hands reaching for the golden box. At this moment, Long Tao's spiritual qi shook, causing Cheng Rui to take a few steps back. He then opened the golden box. The moment the golden box was opened, Lin Yuan smelled a sweet scent. There was a light purple bead in the box. The bead was about the size of a thumb. Although it was a light purple pearl, it emitted a purple light. The sweet taste from before didn't seem to come from the bead itself, but from the soft light emitted by the bead. Beside the light purple bead, there was a small wooden token. Apart from these 2 items, there was nothing else. At this moment, Kai Cha, who was standing by the side, said. This treasure is a pearl produced by the purple coral shellfish when it reaches diamond grade. It is an excellent treasure for water-type phase and has a chance to increase the possibility of water-type phase breaking through. Kai Cha's words caused Long Tao's calm expression to turn grave. His breathing also became heavier. His eyes were filled with extreme joy. Lin Yuan looked at this light purple pearl and could not help but click his tongue. This was not only a diamond spiritual ingredient but also a diamond spiritual ingredient from the deep sea. The shell fei also had another name, the deep sea treasure. The reason was that shell species feis could produce pearls, and only experts were qualified to explore the deep sea. Just this point alone made the pearls produced by the purple coral shellfish a priceless treasure, not to mention the amazing effects of the purple coral shellfish pearl. Lin Yuan couldn't estimate the price of the purple coral shell pearls. However, just by looking at the envy in Ling Zhao's eyes, Lin Yuan already knew how rare the purple coral shell pearl was. After Long Tao took the purple coral shellfish pearl, he picked up the wooden tablet beside the purple coral shellfish pearl and saw a small sword engraved on it. At this moment, Kai Cha continued. This wooden token has a small sword engraved on it, and it is a sword token of the Radiant Moon Palace. You can compete with the sword token holder of the Radiant Moon Palace, and the sword token holder's strength will be comparable to yours. If you win, you can exchange this sword token for another treasure. If you lose, it's nothing, it's just a competition. Long Tao turned to look at Senior Meng, who nodded at him. Long Tao looked at Kai Cha and asked. I wonder if you are referring to a competition between combat class spirit chi adepts or creation masters. Kai Cha said with a faint smile. Since it is a sword token, it is naturally a contest between combat class spirit chi occupations. If the token is drawn with a vessel, it will be a contest between creation masters. Long Tao squeezed the token in his hand and said in a clear voice, I am willing to accept the contest. Ever since Long Tao obtained the purple coral shellfish pearl, Qing Rui, who was standing beside Long Tao, looked at Long Tao with eyes so gloomy that it was about to drip water. However, no one was paying attention to Qing Rui's expression. Everyone's eyes were gathered on Long Tao, especially Lin Yuan. He didn't expect to be able to witness a fight between the Radiance 100 sequence number 3. After watching this duel, Lin Yuan knew that he almost knew what the combat power of the Radiance 100 sequence's peak experts was. He had seen the contest between White Devil and Unknown Flame. However, in the final battle, when White Devil's revival Swallowtail Butterfly was released from the cage and transformed into the disaster Swallowtail Butterfly, everything had ended in a crushing manner. Furthermore, White Devil might be sequence number 18 of the Radiance 100, but a healing class Spirit Chi professional's strategic significance was usually greater than their combat significance. However, Long Tao was the Radiance 100 sequence number 3 and had the title Overflowing Sea. He was a true combat class Spirit Chi professional. Kai Cha waved the sword token in her hand. The maidservant attire that was similar to Kai Cha's at the four corners of the hall were now standing on the platform. Lin Yuan looked over and noticed that the maidservant standing at the four corners of the hall looked exactly the same. Perhaps the only difference was the appearance of the hair ornaments on her head. When Cold Moon saw Lin Yuan's appearance, she gave a rare explanation. Kai Cha, Shicha, Kai Cha, and Yin Cha are the Radiant Moon Palace's tea attendants. They are 4 sisters, and the Moon Empress picked them up 30 years ago. They have always been serving in the Radiant Moon Palace. Lin Yuan nodded. However, he didn't understand why Cold Moon was introducing the Radiant Moon Palace's members in such detail. It was as though he was going to get to know them in the future. The 4 of us will share this sword token. I am the strongest, and the 3 of them are about the same strength. You can choose one of us as your opponent. Kai Cha said to Long Tao. Long Tao didn't hesitate and chose Kai Cha, who was currently speaking and was also the strongest. When looking at this scene, Lin Yuan felt that Kai Cha's thoughts weren't simple. This simple statement was an overt scheme. But under such circumstances, Long Tao's temper and pride, as well as the people standing around him, would undoubtedly make Long Tao choose the strongest among the 4 of them. When Elder Meng saw that Long Tao and Kai Cha were about to fight, he quickly said to Cold Moon, who was standing beside Lin Yuan. Dark Moon Emissary, fighting in the Radiant Moon Palace might cause damage to the items in the Radiant Moon Palace. Long Tao did not hold back and seriously injured the tea attendant. What should we do? This wasn't Elder Meng's first time in the Radiant Moon Palace, so he naturally knew about the 4 tea attendants. Every time he met the Moon Empress, he would be able to drink the spirit tea brewed by the 4 tea attendants. However, Elder Meng had never heard of the 4 weak-looking tea attendants fighting. Sang Yu replied coldly. This palace has been hardened by the fantasy v unyielding diamond resplendent tortoise. If it could be destroyed so easily by a junior, the Radiant Moon Palace would have long been destroyed. As for the competition, it was decided by the Moon Empress. After speaking, Sang Yu circulated the spiritual power in her body and enveloped herself and Lin Yuan within the Qi whirlpool. When Elder Meng heard Sang Yu's words, he naturally wouldn't go against the Moon Empress' wishes. Elder Du pulled Qing Rui and left some space for Long Tao and Kai Cha. Lin Yuan heard Sang Yu's words clearly. Sang Yu wasn't polite to Elder Meng at all. A single order from the Moon Empress was enough for Elder Meng to not dare to say anything else. After all, Elder Meng was the Dean of the Royal Capital Advanced Spirit Chi University's Creation Master Academy. He had overwhelming authority in the Royal Capital, but he didn't dare to show it here. Lin Yuan immediately expressed his gratitude to Sang Yu for using the Qi whirlpool to protect him. Chapter 92. Kai Cha and Long Tao circulated their spirit chi at the same time. Long Tao summoned a shark-like fey that was about 2 to 3 meters long, but it had dragon patterns on its body. Under true data, Lin Yuan recognized that it was a Platinum 6/Epic Shark Dragon-Eating Shark. Beside Kai Cha, a tea tree with white camellia blossoms appeared. Lin Yuan looked over and realized that although it was also a Platinum Fae, Kai Cha had summoned a fantasy breed. Furthermore, this fantasy breed tea tree had reached the Fantasy 2 quality. Kai Cha called out softly to the tea tree. Dark Dream Fragrant Tea, Tool Transformation. With Kai Cha's yell, the Platinum/Fantasy 2 tea tree turned into a 5-stringed pipa. It landed in Kai Cha's hands. Kai Cha plucked the strings with her bare hands, and the big and small strings were noisy. The string notes carried the might of a magnificent army and blasted at Long Tao with a piercing sound. Long Tao quickly jumped onto the reef dragon eater's back, but the shark dragon eater was still injured by the string notes. A bone-deep wound appeared on the shark dragon eater's body, causing it to roar in pain. Long Tao's eyes immediately turned sharp and serious. The damage from Kai Cha's string notes let Long Tao know how dangerous this woman was under her seemingly weak appearance. Kai Cha smiled lightly and continued to pluck the strings with her fingers. Long Tao quickly ordered the shark dragon eater to summon a wave to block the damage from the string notes. At that moment, Long Tao circulated his spiritual power again. 2 half-meter-tall figures, one blue and one red, appeared on the field. Lin Yuan looked at the 2 fays and realized that they were actually 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish. These 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish might have the dragon species bloodline, but they weren't considered dragon species fays. These 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish were 2 deep blue jellyfish that had been nurtured with dragon blood since they were young and had transformed into fantasy breeds. These 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish of different colors were both Platinum/Fantasy I/Fantasy breeds. 2 Fantasy I/Fantasy breeds were summoned by Long Tao, and it immediately started raining heavily on the battlefield. The raindrops formed lines that carried the deep sea's coldness and killing intent. The torrential rain was like needles that seemed to pierce through all life it came into contact with. Under this overwhelming killing intent, Lin Yuan only saw Kai Cha changing her hand gesture. She lifted the pipa above her shoulder and plucked the strings. The pipa music formed a world around Kai Cha, and fragrant camellias bloomed within the world, rapidly replenishing the spirit qi in Kai Cha's body. Kai Cha's eyes turned solemn. She formed a claw with her hands and grabbed the zither strings. She twisted it forcefully and played for a few moments before the zither notes that were gathered at her fingertips were dispersed. The sound of the zither carried an unstoppable momentum, directly breaking through the boundary formed by the chaotic rain. It crashed into the 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish and the shark. The 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish and the shark dragon eater held up the water together. However, in the end, the unstoppable and murderous Guqi music still managed to break through, and the 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish were slightly injured. The shark Dracophagus was also severely injured and lost its ability to fight. Kai Cha flipped her pipa and sat on her shoulder blade as she chuckled. The Radiance 100's 3rd seat might be called Overturning the Sea, but he is also known as the Son of Dragon. His contracted fays are all dragon species fays, but if he doesn't use his trump card in battle, he won't be able to obtain the sword token and exchange for treasures. Long Tao's aura suddenly changed, and the violent spiritual qi instantly climbed to the peak. A huge shadow appeared behind Long Tao. Long Taoxing said, "If you don't have any other abilities, then I, Long Tao, will definitely take the sword token." The 3rd seat naturally has the ability to defend the glory of the 3rd seat. Following Long Tao's words, the massive figure behind him finally revealed its full appearance. This was a huge sea dragon that was nearly 30 meters long. It looked like a prehistoric ancient sea dragon. It looked somewhat like a sea king dragon. When Lin Yuan saw this dragon species fae, he felt his blood boil. This dragon species fae was Long Tao's famed fae, and it was also the reason why he was called the Overflowing Sea. Lin Yuan had previously seen the Radiance 100's information on the star web, but when he saw the full appearance of this massive creature, he felt as though he was looking at the vast and boundless phenomena of ancient times. Lin Yuan used true data to check the sea dragon fae's name. Fey name, Sea King Cretaceous Dragon, Fey species, Mosasaur species/Imperial Dragon species, Fey grade, Platinum, 10 out of 10, Fey type, Water, Fey quality, Fantasy II abilities Frowny Face Whirlpool, stir up the water, causing the water to be filled with extremely strong currents. 8 Dragon Shadows, Dragon shadows float and transform into 8 dragon shadows. Each dragon shadow has 60% of the main body's attributes. Sea bite, manipulate the ocean currents to form a bite. The bite force is equivalent to the main body's bite force. Sea Emperor Dragon Breath, spit out a destructive breath that is unique to Imperial dragons. Wrath of the Ocean, activate all the hidden power in the ocean to carry out a destructive tremor. The extreme tremor in the water can shatter everything in the sea region. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Water Control, use the power of water to be meticulous and control the flow of water. Extremity of the sea, gather water elements and form rivers. All rivers flow into the sea, forming a controlled sea region. What kind of name was the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon? It was called the Sea King, and it was crowned with the name of the Cretaceous era's dragon roaming the world. It was indeed worthy of being called the most noble Fey among the dragon species, the Imperial Dragon species. Cold Moon looked at Lin Yuan and noticed that he was watching the duel attentively. She nodded with satisfaction. After the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon appeared, there was a deafening roar. Water elements rapidly gathered in all directions and immediately formed a massive sea region. Kai Cha quickly played her pipa and opened up a boundary in the sea region so that it wouldn't be devoured by the seawater. However, the moment the sea region was formed, whirlpools appeared. The originally irregular whirlpools were like pairs of demonic hands that seized souls from the bottom of the sea, sending everything on the surface of the sea to the bottom of the sea. Lin Yuan's eyes contracted. The Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's attack was a perfect combination of its exclusive skill, water control, extremity of the sea, and the whirlpool. In just an instant, the situation was under control. At this moment, Kai Cha's forehead was perspiring, and the pulling force of the water currents was making Kai Cha exhausted. Kai Cha thought to herself. If this carried on, she wouldn't have the ability to resist and would be devoured by the seawater. Kai Cha circulated her spiritual chi and a small black beast immediately appeared in this self-formed domain. This small beast looked like a hornless deer and had big eyes. The moment it appeared, it spat out a cloud of white mist. The white mist blew onto Kai Cha's fingertips and flowed into the pipa strings. Kai Cha played her pipa thrice consecutively, causing the sound of the pipa to have the feeling of breaking a silver bottle. At this moment, Long Tao yelled out. White, use sea bite. In an instant, the water currents around Kai Cha seemed to have turned into sharp mouths. Chapter 93. Water had always been the most gentle existence in this world. However, when the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon executed its sea bite ability, a sharp mouth formed by seawater appeared outside of Kai Cha's domain. This sharp mouth might be formless and intangible, but one could roughly see the shape of the sharp mouth from the stirred water. The size of this sharp mouth was similar to the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's mouth, and the pressure caused the water to emit an ear-piercing sound. The sound was similar to metal plates colliding. At this critical moment, Kai Cha hurriedly dispersed the gas that she had mixed into the zither's neck into the zither's neck. The zither's neck suddenly tightened. At this moment, the violent destructive pressure that was mixed with the might of the sharp mouth nearly caused Kai Cha's domain to deform. Lin Yuan could clearly see that the seawater had already seeped into Kai Cha's domain. There were obvious teeth marks on the domain, and the seawater was seeping in through these teeth marks. However, as Kai Cha strummed the zither with all her might, the domain withstood the pressure and rapidly mended the cracks. Lin Yuan's heart trembled. Sea bite was a divine ability in the water region. If the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon wanted to tear its prey apart, it didn't need to engage in close combat. This was because the water in the water region could turn into the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's sharp mouth at any moment. The Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's sea bite was formless and intangible, and it could only be defended. Furthermore, The Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's sea bite ability wasn't the pressure from the bite, but the penetrative ability from the sharp teeth. It was the force from the sharp teeth that created a hole in Kai Cha's domain. Long Tao stood on the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's back and looked at Kai Cha. Shall we stop here? Your domain has already been broken, and I am not adept at controlling my strength in combat. Long Tao wasn't reserved with his words as he immediately stated that he controlled his strength and didn't wish to injure Kai Cha. When Kai Cha heard this, the grave expression on her face disappeared. Instead, she chuckled. It is too boring to determine the outcome just like this. You are not adept at controlling your strength, but I am. After speaking, the black deer-like beast's body lit up with a dark night luster. It rapidly devoured all the light in the sea region before letting out a crisp cry. The light of the night was directed towards Kai Cha's finger. In an instant, Kai Cha's zither music separated the raging sea region's vast water. Wherever the sound of the guqin passed, the water elements disappeared without a trace. Zither sounds severing rain. The seemingly gentle and misty sound of the zither made Long Tao feel that everything was strange. The two lightly injured deep blue dragon jellyfish floated beside Long Tao. Together with the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon, they formed a water screen that covered the sky. The sound of the zither hit the water curtain, and the night fog dispersed. But the all-pervasive music was like a drizzle. It melted into the water, but it cut through the water and came out through it. At this moment, Long Tao decisively ordered the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. White. 8 dragon shadows. In an instant, 8 illusory dragon shadows appeared in front of the Cretaceous Sea King Dragon. 8 dragon shadows charged at Xian Yin and released Sea Bite at the same time. But this string note still shattered the 8 dragon shadows. The aftermath also severely injured the blue dragon mother, and Long Tao took it back into his spiritual space. Long Tao said in a cold voice. Since there is no need to hold back, then I shall not hold back. 3 of his fays were injured, and Long Tao was truly infuriated. Elder Meng silently cursed and circulated the spiritual power in his body. If Kai Cha couldn't resist, he would immediately save her. Elder Meng knew how powerful this move of Long Tao's was. Even if he withstood this attack, it wouldn't be easy. The water elements gathered again, and the sea region instantly expanded by more than 2 times. The Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's exclusive skills, Water Controller and Extremity of Sea, were executed to the extreme. The sea started to stir, and this sort of restlessness wasn't something that a whirlpool could produce. The instant the seawater stirred, Kai Cha's domain was compressed to a 1-meter radius. Kai Cha suddenly shouted. Final move. In an instant, Kai Cha tossed the dark dream fragrant tea, which had transformed into a pipa, into the sky. The pipa transformed back into the dark dream fragrant tea's original form. The moment the dark dream fragrant tea appeared, its entire body lit up with a green light. The domain that had been compressed to only 1 meter instantly expanded to 10 meters. It was like a piece of pure land in the middle of this vast ocean. However, as the tremors of the sea got more intense, the dark dream fragrant tea's domain immediately shrunk. Kai Cha circulated all the spirit chi in her body. Dark dream fragrant tea, dream transformation. Night dream beast, dream devourer. When Kai Cha's nearly boiling spiritual power burst out, the dark dream fragrant tea suddenly shrunk and turned into a 1-leaf tea. The little black beast jumped up, and the moment it swallowed the tea leaf, a natural aura suddenly descended. In an instant, the sea region was compressed, creating a piece of land that could compete with the sea region. After the black deer-like dream beast swallowed the tea, its hornless head instantly grew giant antlers. The antlers were like tea branches that bloomed with white flowers. The black fur on its body instantly turned white, and its size doubled. It instantly turned into a white buck that was over 4 meters long. The deer stepped on the ground, and the surroundings were covered with green grass. The dream beast and Kai Cha looked at each other, and Kai Cha said softly, "Go. Go." The dream beast's antlers lit up with green radiance, and it crashed towards the Sea King Cretaceous dragon with overwhelming might. Long Tao didn't allow the Sea King Cretaceous dragon to gather the surrounding water region. White, wrath of the ocean. Sea Emperor's dragon breath. At this moment, the sea was truly in motion. As compared to now, the changes in the sea were nothing. At this moment, the rumbling of the restless sea could even be heard by Lin Yuan, who was within the deep blue moon's spirit chi defense. Lin Yuan looked on as the wrath of the ocean carried the Sea King Cretaceous dragon's pale white dragon breath and clashed with the white buck. At this moment, Elder Meng, who had been accumulating power, rushed out and supported his spirit chi barrier beside Kai Cha. When the buck crashed into the sea, it was on par with the sea. However, this pale white dragon breath shattered the antlers and crashed towards Kai Cha. This pale white dragon breath only vanished after crashing into Elder Meng's barrier for a long time. Elder Meng's expression was very bad. It wasn't because of how strong Long Tao's attack was, but because he blamed Long Tao for not holding back at all. This battle allowed Lin Yuan to finally understand why the Radiance Federation's Radiance 100 was the Radiance Federation's glory. The third seat's sea overturning power allowed Lin Yuan to understand the pinnacle standard of the younger generation. Lin Yuan knew that he was indeed still far from it. However, Lin Yuan wasn't in a hurry to deny himself, as he had only been an ordinary person who couldn't sense spirit chi for less than 2 months. Chapter 94. Kai Cha stored the injured Fae into her spiritual spatial zone and bowed to Elder Meng to express her thanks. She then said to Long Tao, "I've lost. I'm nearly 10 years older than you, but I don't even have the ability to block a full blow from you." As expected of the third-ranked sequence, Long Tao had used up almost all of his spiritual power in this attack. For a moment, he couldn't even stand straight. Long Tao used his hands to support the Sea King Cretaceous dragon and panted heavily. He didn't even have the strength to speak. Long Tao's current state was the most basic symptom of spiritual power exhaustion. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan used Morbius Spirit Gather Goldfish's spirit injection ability. A pure spirit chi shot out from Lin Yuan's hand and landed on Long Tao's body. Long Tao's depleted spiritual power instantly improved. Although it was not enough to recover most of the spiritual energy, the recovered spiritual energy was enough for Long Tao to move normally. Long Tao cupped his fists to express his gratitude. Lin Yuan and Long Tao's eyes met, and he realized that Long Tao was looking at him very carefully. Lin Yuan smiled and returned the greeting with cupped fists. Long Tao then looked at Kai Cha and said, "If I didn't use my final move, I wouldn't have been able to defeat you." Long Tao's words might not sound courteous, but it also showed that he acknowledged Kai Cha's strength. In addition, Lin Yuan noticed that Cold Moon, Elder Meng, Elder Du, and Ling Xiao were all looking at him. Lin Yuan could not help but think that it was really rude of him to replenish Long Tao's spiritual power in such a situation with these experts present. However, Lin Yuan didn't know that they were rather surprised by his ability to instantly replenish spiritual power. When Lin Yuan had used the spirit injection earlier, he hadn't summoned a Fae but had casually released it. Healing type and support type spirit chi professionals could release healing and recovery type abilities without summoning Faes. However, the effects of such a skill would undoubtedly be greatly reduced. But even so, it allowed Long Tao to recover from his extremely weak state due to the depletion of spirit chi. Previously, everyone only knew that Lin Yuan was a young prodigy who had passed the Class 2 Creation Master exam. He did not expect Lin Yuan to have such an impressive support skill. There were very few skills that could directly increase spiritual power. The most common was the Spirit Siphon Goldfish. However, due to the Spirit Siphon Goldfish's characteristics, almost no one would choose it as their contracted Fae. Therefore, when Lin Yuan revealed this ability, even these experts were quite surprised. Even Sung Yu's usually cold face had a hint of joy as she spoke to Lin Yuan. A skill that increases spiritual energy can greatly increase one's survivability and combatability in the wild. Very good. Lin Yuan felt a little embarrassed after hearing Sang Yu's words. Now, Qing Rui had become the neglected one. Qing Rui, who was standing behind old Du, looked at Long Tao with a trace of fear in his eyes, compared to his previous gloominess. If Long Tao's combat ability was on someone else, Qing Rui might not feel anything. However, Long Tao's creation master's strength was currently stronger than his. This made Qing Rui realize that it was impossible for him to find trouble with Long Tao. However, when Qing Rui looked at Long Tao, his previous jealousy was now accompanied by the gloominess that had originally been on Long Tao. Lin Yuan sensed Qing Rui's gaze. Lin Yuan, who had lived 2 lifetimes, was no longer a youth. Now that he had met Qing Rui's gaze, he roughly understood that he had been the target of jealousy along the way. Lin Yuan frowned slightly when he saw her gaze. Everything was seen by Sang Yu. Kai Cha was supposed to hand the sword token to Long Tao for him to exchange for treasures. However, Sang Yu took a step forward and said, originally, the treasures exchanged for the sword token were some high-grade spiritual ingredients that were similar to the pearls. Originally, the treasures exchanged for the sword token were high-grade spiritual ingredients, which were similar to the pearls. However, since Kai Cha injured 3 of your fays, the reward will be 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster cash's nectar. Sang Yu's words immediately made Long Tao reveal a delighted expression. Even Elder Meng had a very radiant smile on his face. When Lin Yuan saw this scene, he immediately knew how rare the silver stamen gold luster cash's nectar was. However, he remembered that the silver-robed man who had brought him up the mountain had said that he would give him a bowl to drink. Back then, Lin Yuan didn't feel anything and thought that it was just a reception. Now that he knew, Lin Yuan didn't dare to casually accept such a precious item. After Sang Yu finished speaking, she changed the topic and looked at Qing Rui. There is only a gray box left. It's your turn to open it. Qing Rui's face was filled with joy as he quickly opened the box. When he opened the box, he saw a bottle of dark red blood with traces of purple and a token. Just as Qing Rui was about to pick up the bottle of blood, Sang Yu's words made him immediately withdraw his hand. The blood in this bottle is the blood of a diamond snake species fae. However, there is a rule for this gray box. If you don't win the contest, not only will you not be able to win the new treasure, but you will also have to leave this bottle of diamond snake blood behind. After speaking, Sang Yu gave an eye signal to one of the tea attendants. The other 3, including Kai Cha, retreated to the 4 corners of the hall. When Sang Yu returned to Lin Yuan's side, the tea attendant that was left behind stepped forward and said, "My name is Shi Cha. My name is Shi Cha, I will compete with you." Qing Rui had already picked up the sword token and saw an exquisite vessel drawn on it. It was a contest of creation master's abilities. This immediately gave Qing Rui confidence. However, Qing Rui didn't understand why the treasure in his gray box could only be taken away after winning the contest, but Long Tao didn't use it. He couldn't help but ask, "I don't know why my contest's rules are different from before." Shi Cha had a fiery temperament, and when Qing Rui asked, she immediately answered. "Because this is the Leaning Moon Mountain's Radiant Moon Palace." Shi Cha's temper was simply like a hot pepper. Her words were very irritating. However, Elder Du immediately went forward and said to Shi Cha, "Qing Rui doesn't know the rules. Qing Rui doesn't know the rules. Please forgive him." Qing Rui was originally full of confidence, but Shi Cha's statement made Qing Rui feel a little apprehensive. Lin Yuan couldn't figure out what was going on. At that moment, Sang Yu was looking at Qing Rui with eyes filled with contempt. When Qing Rui looked at Lin Yuan with such a gaze, Sang Yu's heart produced a kind of unpleasant emotion. The Moon Empress might not have officially accepted Lin Yuan as a disciple, but not only did Mystic Moon understand the Moon Empress, but Sang Yu did too. Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, and it was a fact that was set in stone. This made Sang Yu feel protective. Even though Qing Rui was just a junior, Sang Yu didn't ignore him. Sang Yu had a cold temperament and wasn't someone who would be protective. However, after following the Moon Empress for a long time, she had been influenced by her temperament. Therefore, even though she didn't show it, she still made arrangements for Cheng Rui clearly. Because of Cheng Rui, Sang Yu looked at Elder Du, who had brought Cheng Rui over, with a slightly unfriendly gaze. Lin Yuan didn't know what Sang Yu was thinking. Chapter 95. Lin Yuan had never known what level his creation master standard had reached. At the end of the day, Lin Yuan had never come into contact with a proper creation master. Take Elder Ning for example. Lin Yuan only knew that Elder Ning was a Class 4 creation master, but he had never seen Elder Ning's means. Lin Yuan knew that a normal creation master would use spiritual ingredients to enhance a phase quality. However, Lin Yuan had never seen how to mix spiritual ingredients. He had never seen a Class 1 creation master's operation before. Now that he had the chance, he looked at it very seriously. Sang Yu didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, she found it boring. Therefore, most of their attention was on Lin Yuan. Kai Cha, who was standing in one of the four corners of the hall, looked at Cheng Rui with a ruminating gaze. He didn't know how Cheng Rui offended Sang Yu, but he actually chose Shi Cha to stay behind to compete. Shi Cha was the most talented creation master among the four sisters. Even if he had never taken the creation master exam, he was undoubtedly a Class 3 creation master. There should be no suspense in the competition. Shi Cha knocked on the high platform with her hand and asked in a shrewd manner. A creation master competition is to increase the phase grade, enhance the phase quality, or heal the phase damaged roots. You can choose how to compete. Cheng Rui was overjoyed when he heard that. His previous nervousness and affected state of mind seemed to have calmed down all of a sudden. Let's compete in healing phase with damaged roots. Cheng Rui answered very quickly, and Lin Yuan couldn't help but raise his brows. It seemed like Cheng Rui was adept at healing phase with damaged roots and believed that he would have a higher chance of winning in this competition. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so eager to make his choice. Shi Cha clapped her hands 3 times and said indifferently. Then as you wish. Soon, 2 black dog-like fays were carried up. The 2 dog-like fays were half a meter long and had pointy ears. However, there were plenty of teeth protruding from their mouths, making them look abnormally sharp. Lin Yuan recognized that they were 2 violent blood terror wolf cubs that were still in the infant stage. It could be considered a very rare fae. The violent blood terror wolf was a powerful platinum fae, and its cubs would be at silver at birth. These 2 violent blood terror wolf pups had only been born a few months ago, and their origin sources had been damaged. While looking at their dying state, Lin Yuan carefully observed the 2 violent blood terror wolf cubs. Although they were quite far away, Lin Yuan could still see that their eyes were so swollen that they could barely open. There were also a lot of black scabs in his sharp ears. The various symptoms undoubtedly indicated that the source of the injuries to the 2 violent blood dire wolf cubs were in their heads. It was extremely likely that their brains, which were protected by their hard skulls, had been damaged. The brain was the source of intelligence, so it was extremely difficult for beast species fays to treat brain injuries. Before becoming a C-rank spirit chi professional, if he was in the pure land of bliss in the spirit lock spatial zone and tried his best to save the violent blood terror wolf's cub, he would need to spend several days. Conservatively speaking, it would take at least 2 days and 2 nights. After becoming a C-rank spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan still did not know to what extent his fey enhancement ability had reached. However, the time needed to heal this violent blood dire wolf cub would definitely not be as long as before. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw that Cheng Rui and Shi Cha had already started to move. Both of them were using crystal vessels to mix spiritual ingredients according to a certain ratio. Both of them were very proficient, but there were subtle differences. Lin Yuan could clearly feel that Shi Cha's speed of mixing spiritual ingredients was faster than Cheng Rui's, but it wasn't obvious. Different types of spiritual ingredients were added into the crystal bottles in an orderly manner. Whenever a new spiritual ingredient was added, the medicinal liquid in the crystal bottles would vibrate and have different changes. As they matched, Lin Yuan could see that although they were both concocting spiritual ingredients, Cheng Rui and Shi Cha's concocting spiritual ingredients were different. Just by looking at the color and state, it was obvious. The medicinal liquid that Kai Cha had mixed was an amber liquid that was as viscous as honey. As for Cheng Rui's spiritual ingredient, it was a dark green, non-transparent spirit liquid that was constantly bubbling. The time that the two of them took to mix the spirit liquid was neither long nor short, and it took around 3 to 4 hours. Lin Yuan observed carefully and had a rough understanding of the Creation Master's methods. As compared to this method of mixing spiritual ingredients, his method was more direct and simple. However, the ability of Lin Yuan's simpler and more direct method was linked to his spirit qi level. Therefore, Lin Yuan only needed to increase his spirit qi occupation rank to increase his Creation Master's methods. If Lin Yuan wanted to increase his spirit qi occupation rank, he could only obtain it by enhancing phase. This allowed Lin Yuan to increase his Creation Master's ability and his spirit qi occupation rank to become the same thing. Cheng Rui was originally mixing spiritual ingredients in an orderly manner. During the mixing process, Cheng Rui suddenly placed the crystal vessels on the platform and looked up at Shi Cha, who was mixing spiritual ingredients. His mouth revealed a profound smile. Lin Yuan saw Cheng Rui circulating the spiritual power in his body. While circulating the spiritual power, Cheng Rui's face revealed a painful expression, and it was almost distorted. After a short moment, a bulge appeared under the skin of Cheng Rui's sleeve, and it was heading towards the web between Cheng Rui's thumb and index finger. The bulge was getting bigger, and it looked like something was going to drill out. Cheng Rui let out a stifled groan, and a worm that was around 5 to 6 centimeters long and looked like a shrunken spine had drilled out. Cold Moon frowned and looked at Elder Du with a cold voice. "This is the source-type life form, Spine Gu." Elder Du nodded in response. Lin Yuan didn't expect for the thing that drilled out from the flesh to be Cheng Rui's contracted source-type life form. This source-type life form resided in the contractor's body and would cause extreme pain to the contractor when it was activated. Since Cheng Rui chose to contract such a source-type life form and summoned it during the duel, it must be able to turn the tide of the duel. From the looks of it, there weren't many spiritual ingredients left that Shi Cha had selected. This meant that the spirit fluid that Kai Cha required was about to be completed. In contrast, half of the spiritual ingredients on Cheng Rui's table had yet to be used. Elder Du didn't expect Cheng Rui to casually summon this source-type life form, Spine Gu. He sighed and said, "Cheng Rui's grandfather is Cheng Wu, and this source-type life form, Spine Gu, was separated from Master Cheng Wu's gold ring Spine Gu." When mentioning Cheng Wu's name, Elder Du's expression didn't look too good. Elder Du's words entered Lin Yuan's ears. Lin Yuan might not know who Cheng Wu was, but Elder Du was a Class 4 Creation Master, and only those pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters who were just a step away from becoming Class 5 Creation Masters could be addressed as a Master. Chapter 96. Sang Yu looked deeply at Old Man Du and said, "It seems like Cheng Wu is really working in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. It is such a major matter, but I don't see the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association announcing it." Old Du quickly said, "Elder Cheng has just arrived at the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association and doesn't have any plans to be the vice president. When Elder Cheng has a plan, we will announce it." Sang Yu was rather surprised that Cheng Wu, a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master, would actually choose to be the vice president of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. But after thinking about it for a while, Sang Yu understood. Since he knows that he doesn't have the chance to become a Class 5 Creation Master, he should plan for the Cheng family's descendants. But if Cheng Rui truly has the talent, why would Cheng Wu allow Cheng Rui to form a contract with the source-type life form, Spine Gu? Sang Yu's words were very cold, but they made Elder Du feel awkward. He didn't know what to say. Lin Yuan listened to Cold Moon and Elder Du's conversation in a daze. However, he also knew that it was very inappropriate for him to ask rashly. Suddenly, Sang Yu turned to look at Lin Yuan. "Lin Yuan, do you know what a source-type Spine Gu is?" Lin Yuan shook his head. Sang Yu saw the curiosity in Lin Yuan's eyes. After forming a contract with a source-type life form like the spine goo, it won't be stored in the spiritual spatial zone like other fays. Once the spine goo is contracted by the contractor, it will reside in the contractor's spine and hollow out a portion of the spine to build its nest. Forming a contract with the spine goo will essentially damage the contractor's vitality. Therefore, the creation master that forms a contract with the spine goo will never reach class 5. Lin Yuan was dumbfounded. There was actually a source-type life form like the spine goo. But thinking about it, his red thorn was also very special. It was just that red thorn's uniqueness was that it needed a blood contract and did not have a biological template. It needed the contractor to specify its evolution. Red thorn's uniqueness allowed Lin Yuan to quickly accept a unique source-type life form like the spine goo. Seeing that Lin Yuan had digested what she had said, Sang Yu continued. The spine goo might be able to destroy the contractor's vitality potential within a certain range, but it is an absolute treasure for a creation master. The spine goo can rapidly synthesize a large amount of spiritual ingredients that the host devours and form a concentrated spirit fluid in the body. When concocting spiritual ingredients, the spine goo can devour the spiritual ingredients and accumulate them within the body, allowing it to maximize the effects of the spiritual ingredients. But there is also a flaw. When fusing spiritual ingredients like this, the spine goo's spirit fluid will be consumed. After the fusion, the contractor will have to consume a large amount of spiritual ingredients to nourish. Otherwise, if the spine goo doesn't absorb enough spirit fluid, it will gnaw on the spinal cord in the spine. At this moment, Cold Moon changed her usual cold temperament and explained everything that Lin Yuan did not know in detail. Lin Yuan finally knew what the spine goo was used for. However, after knowing about it, Lin Yuan's impression of the spine goo worsened. A contracted fae would treat the fae as a partner and not like the spine goo, which would turn its spine into the fae's residence. It was certainly good to cut off one's own meat to feed the eagle, but that was based on the foundation of cutting off one's own meat. In Lin Yuan's opinion, it was a very foolish thing to cut off one's own meat to feed the eagle. At this moment, Qing Rui had already activated the spine goo and was rapidly devouring the spiritual materials. His efficiency immediately increased. In just a few minutes, he had almost caught up to Shi Cha's speed. When Qing Rui summoned the spine goo and let out a groan, Shi Cha had already looked at Qing Rui with dissatisfaction. When creation masters were concocting spiritual ingredients, it was a taboo to disturb them. Since the start of the competition, Sang Yu had already used her spiritual power to isolate the stage from the outside world. She was afraid that it would affect the competition. However, Qing Rui had actually affected his opponent while concocting a fae. Shi Cha was about to berate him when she saw Qing Rui summon the spine goo. Shi Cha was a little helpless and speechless. At first, I didn't intend to use faes as support, but since you used it, I'll use it too. Shi Cha also circulated her spiritual energy and summoned a plant that looked like a pitcher plant. Shi Cha poured the spirit liquid that she had concocted, but had yet to purify it, into the plant that looked like a pitcher plant. Shi Cha then continuously poured her spiritual energy into the fae. After a series of actions, Qing Rui and Shi Cha concocted the spirit liquid at almost the same time. However, Qing Rui's spirit liquid was converted from the spine goo's abdomen, while Shi Cha's spirit liquid was directly poured from the pitcher plant. The two of them fed the spirit liquid to the violent blood terror wolf pups, which had severe head injuries. In just a few minutes, the two violent blood terror wolf pups were healed at the same time. The two violent blood terror wolf pups immediately became active and would occasionally use their teeth to bite on the cage, producing cracking sounds. Even when the violent blood terror wolf pups were still very irritable. After the end of the competition, it seemed like it was a draw. However, Qing Rui spoke first. I won because my violent blood dire wolf has leveled up from Silver 3 to Silver 4. After speaking, Qing Rui reached for the purplish-red blood of the diamond snake species fae. However, before his hand could touch the bottle of the diamond-level snake-type spirit beast's blood, he suddenly heard a mocking laugh. You won after healing the violent blood terror wolf pup and evolving it from Silver 3 to Silver 4. Why don't you see that my violent blood terror wolf has evolved from elite to flawless? After speaking, Shi-Cha bowed to Cold Moon and returned to the four corners of the palace hall. Shi-Cha's words froze Qing-Rui, and his face turned the color of a pig's liver. Elder Du originally wanted to step forward to console Qing-Rui, but he didn't expect Long Tao to be the first to clap and laugh heartily. Truly spectacular. Qing-Rui's eyes were bloodshot from the clapping and turned blood red as he glared at Long Tao. Long Tao didn't mind. He lifted his feet and patted the non-existent dust off his boots. It was as though he was casually sweeping Qing-Rui's gaze away. Long Tao, you and I are irreconcilable. Long Tao didn't bother about the enraged Qing-Rui and ignored Qing-Rui's ruthless words. Just as Qing-Rui was about to flare up, a bone-chilling pressure nearly froze him in place. Qing-Rui couldn't stand steadily and was about to kneel on the ground. Elder Du hurriedly stepped forward to support Qing-Rui and said to Tsangyu. Envoy Cold Moon, Qing-Rui didn't mean to be presumptuous in the Radiant Moon Palace. This is Qing-Rui's first time here, so he doesn't know the rules. Sangyu's aura instantly rose as she spoke in a cold voice. Even if he doesn't dare to be impudent, he has already been impudent. You were the one who told him to do so in the Radiant Moon Palace? Or did you not even teach him the Radiant Moon Palace's rules when you brought him here? Old Man Du broke out in a cold sweat. For the past 10 years, the Moon Empress had been biding her time, and the two Moon Envoys had been cultivating in the Leaning Moon Mountain, rarely going out. But how could he forget Emissary Cold Moon's temper? Marquis Jing Shi, one of the nobles of the capital, was insufferably arrogant 15 years ago and disrespected Blue Moon Emissary. His legs were broken by the Moon Emissary, and he had been sitting in a wheelchair ever since. That night, the Jing Shi Marquis's residence was covered in frost. The house of the Marquis was split in half. No one knew what had happened. With Marquis Jing Shi's high-tier king stage strength, his legs should have recovered long ago. However, he did not dare to stand up from his wheelchair. Chapter 97. Marquis Jing Shi was extremely powerful in the capital back then. Even among other king-class experts, many had been rejected by Marquis Jing Shi. With a Fantasy 3 Pinnacle Diamond Desert Lion and the old Marquis behind him, almost no one of his age dared to compete with him. However, after the arrogant Marquis Jing Shi drank wine at the banquet, his words carried a bit of disrespect towards Blue Moon Envoy. After that, he openly provoked them. As a result, the bones in his legs were frozen to the point of almost shattering. How miserable was that? Old Du quickly said. Envoy Dark Moon, how could I dare not teach him the rules of the Radiant Moon Palace? Qing-Rui is stupid and didn't understand. I'll bring Qing-Rui back and teach him a harsh lesson. I'll teach him the rules of the Radiant Moon Palace. As Old Man Du spoke, his back was already soaked in cold sweat. As a Class 4 Creation Master, Elder Du might be considered outstanding among the Class 4 Creation Masters, but he was still a long way from becoming a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master. As for Class 5 Creation Masters, because they were already at the Class 4 Creation Master position, they didn't even dare to think about the Class 5 Creation Master level. Among the King Class experts, his combat strength was far inferior to a Creation Master's. He had barely reached the King tier. His status in the Radiant Moon Palace was not high enough. If he said something wrong again, he might be crippled and thrown off the Leaning Moon Mountain. Sangyu had rarely appeared in the past decade, but the title of Ironman Triathlon had always been remembered by many people because of the incident with Marquis Jing Shi. Triathlons didn't refer to athletic ability, but to Sangyu's style of doing things. Iron wrists, iron fists, a heart of stone. The bone-piercing chill on Sangyu's body didn't diminish. In an instant, a pair of spinning frost flowers appeared in Sangyu's eyes. In an instant, Old Man Du felt as if he had been buried under a glacier of 10,000 years. Previously, Elder Du was still supporting Qing-Rui, but now, Elder Du couldn't even stand steadily. At this moment, the blood-red color in Cheng Rui's eyes dissipated. Sensing old Du's trembling, Cheng Rui suddenly felt like he was out of his wits and helpless. In a panic, Cheng Rui cried out in a sobbing tone. "My grandfather is Cheng Wu, a pinnacle class 4 creation master." Cheng Rui shouted very loudly, as if he was trying to give himself some courage by shouting. When Sang Yu heard this, her usually expressionless face suddenly curled up into a smile. In an instant, her eyes were filled with frost. As soon as Cheng Rui shouted that his grandfather was Cheng Wu, Old Man Du knew that something bad had happened. In the Radiant Moon Palace, let alone your grandfather who is a pinnacle class 4 creation master, even class 5 creation masters like Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme are here. Even Sang Yu might not let this matter go. The Moon Empress had always been domineering, and the 2 Moon Envoys represented the Moon Empress will. A pinnacle class 4 creation master was ultimately still a class 4 creation master. There was a heavenly chasm between a class 4 creation master and a class 5 creation master. Class 4 creation masters could only nurture phase at the Fantasy V transformation, while class 5 creation masters were already qualified to ascend to the myth rank. When Lin Yuan saw this tense atmosphere, he actually felt his heart in his throat for a moment. Sang Yu's aura might not be directed at him, but Lin Yuan could still feel a pressure that came from the soul dimension. This kind of oppressive feeling was like a person in the clouds looking down on you, making you feel like you couldn't resist. Cheng Rui's ability as a creation master was considered outstanding, especially after using the spine goo. He had basically reached the standard of a class 3 creation master. With the current Lin Yuan, Cheng Rui was considered a formidable foe. However, after seeing Cheng Rui's earlier performance, Lin Yuan no longer treated Cheng Rui as a formidable foe. All of a sudden, Sang Yu turned to look at Lin Yuan and asked, "What do you think? What do you think will happen to those who speak rudely?" Lin Yuan first looked at Old Man Du, who was standing there with cold sweat. Lin Yuan didn't know why, but he felt as though he saw Elder Ning's shadow on Old Man Du. They were both creation masters that enhanced phase, rescued phase, and helped spirit chi professionals break through phase limitations. Looking at Sang Yu's expression, if Old Man Du and Cheng Rui didn't give an explanation, they wouldn't be able to leave. Lin Yuan looked at Sang Yu and noticed that she was looking at him seriously. Lin Yuan still didn't know what to say. However, Lin Yuan didn't wish for Old Man Du to die just because of a few words. Since Sang Yu asked, Lin Yuan followed his heart and said, "Those who speak rudely should naturally be punished." Those who speak rudely should naturally be punished, but there's a reason for it. For example, Elder Du spoke rudely because he wanted to protect Cheng Rui, so Elder Du's actions were essentially to protect the younger generation. Sang Yu's aura suddenly lowered, and Lin Yuan could feel the pressure that Old Man Du and Cheng Rui had felt earlier. Lin Yuan's forehead was already covered in sweat. However, Lin Yuan had already grasped 3 willpower runes. Willpower runes might not be able to increase Lin Yuan's spiritual energy, but they could increase Lin Yuan's spiritual defense to a certain extent. Therefore, Lin Yuan didn't look like he was in a sorry state, and Sang Yu was a little surprised. Sang Yu spoke. "Then you mean that it is all Cheng Rui's fault, so it is enough to punish him alone?" Since Lin Yuan had already spoken, he simply shook his head after hearing Sang Yu's words. "When I look at a person, I don't look at how high a person's abilities can bring him. I look at how deep a person's mistakes can make him fall. Cheng Rui's words have already implicated the people on his side and the elders in his family. When he returns, I don't know how many punishments are waiting for him. Therefore, why not let Old Man Du bring Cheng Rui back to discipline him and also tell Cheng Rui's elders about Cheng Rui's mistakes today?" Lin Yuan was silent for 3 seconds before speaking again. Creation masters are very precious resources in the Radiance Federation. Therefore, even if you want to punish them, you might as well punish them to heal more phase. After Lin Yuan finished speaking, he felt Sang Yu's aura suddenly withdraw. Lin Yuan looked at Sang Yu again and realized that she was looking at him with a somewhat different gaze. Her gaze was actually a little more approachable and intimate. Sang Yu looked at Lin Yuan and didn't expect this young genius to be so kind. He was using all kinds of reasons just to hope that she wouldn't be too harsh on him. In the end, Lin Yuan's reason was also in consideration for the Radiance Federation. From Lin Yuan's information, Tsang Yu felt that Lin Yuan should be a young fellow who had almost never received any favors from the Radiance Federation. His wandering and miserable life in the information actually made his heart look toward the light. This was a very rare and precious quality. Tsang Yu had asked Lin Yuan earlier because she wanted to test him and see what he would say. There was no standard answer to this question. However, Lin Yuan's answer brought Tsang Yu a pleasant surprise. Just as Tsang Yu withdrew her aura, Old Man Du had already pulled Qing Rui to thank Lin Yuan. However, when Qing Rui lowered his head to thank Lin Yuan, the blood-red color in his eyes that had dissipated due to fear became even redder. Chapter 98. Cold Yu ignored Elder Du, who was bowing to thank Lin Yuan, and walked straight to the platform. He said to Elder Meng, who had been watching the show. After coming to the Radiant Moon Palace to receive the Moon Empress reward, let's return. 3 days later, another 20 drops of silver stamen gold luster Casha's nectar will be delivered to Elder Meng. I have let Elder Meng see a joke in the Radiant Moon Palace for no reason. Elder Meng hurried forward and bowed to Tsang Yu. Elder Du's condition had given Elder Meng a fright. If he had spoken rudely, he would have ended up the same way. However, the 20 drops of nectar from the silver stamen gold luster Kasha made Elder Meng so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. Emissary Tsang Yue, I'll take Long Tao back now. Elder Meng had already figured out what was going on. Just by looking at Tsang Yu's attitude toward Lin Yuan, one could see that Long Tao and Cheng Rui were merely supporting characters. He had obtained so many good things on this trip, which was more than enough to make up for his disappointment. Just as Elder Meng was about to leave with Long Tao, he turned around and saw Long Tao standing with Lin Yuan. Thank you for restoring my spiritual power. Otherwise, I would have made a fool of myself. Lin Yuan replied with a laugh. It's just a small matter. When Long Tao heard and saw Lin Yuan smile, he couldn't help but smile. Brother, if you're eating anywhere in the capital, don't forget to find me for a drink. Senior Meng led Long Tao down the Leaning Moon Mountain. Old Man Du hurriedly apologized to Tsang Yu before dragging Cheng Rui down the Leaning Moon Mountain. As they descended the mountain, Old Man Du purposely waited for a while before continuing to lead Cheng Rui down the mountain. This was because Elder Du did not have the face to face Elder Meng, who had gained quite a lot. In the Radiant Moon Palace, apart from Tsang Yu and Lin Yuan, there were only the tea attendants and Ling Xiao, who were looking at Lin Yuan curiously from the four corners of the street. Ling Xiao stood there and looked at Lin Yuan with a calm gaze, but his heart was filled with deep joy. Ling Xiao could see how special Tsang Yu and Mystic Moon were to Lin Yuan. He could also see that Tsang Yu was protecting Lin Yuan. Therefore, there was at least a 70% chance that Lin Yuan would be chosen as a disciple by the Moon Empress. Tsang Yu walked to Lin Yuan's side and said, She wants you to witness the pinnacle standard of the Radiance Federation's younger generation, be it in terms of creation masters or spirit chi occupations. Walk to the back of the palace hall and go through the long corridor to the inner palace. The Moon Empress will be waiting for you there. Lin Yuan didn't expect that those two exciting matches were actually prepared for him. When Lin Yuan had first arrived, he had not been sure why he was the only one who did not need to compete. However, after seeing the standards of the previous two matches, Lin Yuan knew that his strength was not enough. Walking along the corridor, Lin Yuan felt a little apprehensive. He was about to meet one of the Radiance Federation's only 3 Class 5 creation masters, the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan would never have thought that he would be able to interact with such a pinnacle expert at such a close distance. Lin Yuan was very smart. When he had ascended the Leaning Moon Mountain with Mystic Moon, he had also paid attention to the conversation between Elder Meng, Elder Du, and Ling Xiao. He knew that his objective for coming here was the great benefit that Elder Ning had mentioned, which was the possibility of becoming the Moon Empress disciple. With this thought, Lin Yuan became even more nervous. However, Lin Yuan didn't know that there was another person in the inner palace hall who was even more nervous than him. At this time, in the back hall, a woman was arranging brocade boxes one after another on a shelf next to the lotus pond, muttering to herself. 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. These 100 gifts should be enough, right? I don't know how to be a master. Will it make me seem a little stingy to give my precious disciple 100 greeting gifts? A woman in a moon-colored robe was holding her chin while looking at the brocade boxes on the shelf. She was hesitating if she should take out more treasures. If others were to see this, even Cold Moon and Mystic Moon would be shocked. Was this still the Moon Empress who was as cold as the lonely moon? Any one of these 100 brocade boxes would shake the Radiance Federation, but there was actually someone who felt that it was not enough. When the Moon Empress looked at these brocade boxes, she couldn't help but recall the time when she was young and interacted with her master. With this thought, the Moon Empress was so angry that her teeth were itching. Apart from teaching her knowledge as a creation master, that old bastard would bring her to all kinds of dangerous trials. He was very fierce. However, his master, that old scoundrel, had passed away when he had become a Class 3 creation master. This matter had always been a pain in the Moon Empress' heart. After so many years, the pain had been erased and turned into yearning. The Moon Empress had never accepted a disciple before. Now that she was suddenly going to accept one, she actually lost her sense of propriety. However, when she thought of the old bastard who had taught her, she decided that she would definitely pamper her disciple. Ever since the Moon Empress had the intention to accept a disciple, she was already prepared to accept the identity of a master in her life. Therefore, when Lin Yuan appeared and the Moon Empress understood Lin Yuan's information, she might not have said it, but she had a plan in her heart. With this thought in mind, and since Lin Yuan had fought his way up the Leaning Moon Mountain, the Moon Empress had used her spiritual energy to sense Lin Yuan's every word and action. The Moon Empress had always been very satisfied until Cold Moon tested Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan's defense deepened the Moon Empress' impression of Lin Yuan. It made Lin Yuan's image in the Moon Empress' heart even more three-dimensional. Originally, the Moon Empress had planned to test Lin Yuan yesterday, but she was now busy thinking about how to pamper her disciple. Lin Yuan's footsteps were getting closer, and the Moon Empress could already hear them clearly. The Moon Empress took a deep breath and restored her usual demeanor. When Lin Yuan arrived at the inner palace, he was stunned by the scene. The inner palace's scene couldn't be described as luxurious, but it didn't refer to how many expensive decorations there were. It referred to how many powerful and precious fays there were in this house. The inner palace was like a fairyland, and there were dozens of unknown lotus flowers blooming in the huge lotus pond. Using true data, none of the lotus fays' quality was lower than diamond. However, before Lin Yuan could pay attention to these, he was attracted by a figure in a moon-colored robe. Just as Lin Yuan didn't know how to greet her, the Moon Empress walked forward and asked, "Do you have any requirements to be my disciple?" The Moon Empress was originally thinking about how to speak more cordially. However, when she really opened her mouth, it immediately became something that she needed. After speaking, the Moon Empress felt a little regretful. Didn't I seem too anxious to accept a disciple? Lin Yuan did not expect that the Moon Empress, a Class 5 creation master, would actually say such a thing after seeing him. However, Lin Yuan had already thought about it when he was walking just now. Even if he became the Moon Empress disciple, he still had to firmly walk on his path of being an expert. Moon Empress, I don't have any conditions to be your disciple, but I hope that I can walk my own path step by step and rely on my own efforts. Lin Yuan's words made the Moon Empress confused. In that case, wouldn't the 100 treasures that I prepared previously be in vain? Chapter 99. When Lin Yuan sat on the chair, his mind was in a daze. However, he quickly sorted out the things in his mind. He was very nervous when talking to the Moon Empress, but later on, he had a vague feeling that the Moon Empress was even more nervous than him. After chatting for a while, the Moon Empress didn't talk about accepting a disciple anymore. At this time, the sky was a little dark. The Moon Empress arranged for someone to bring Lin Yuan to stay in the pavilion in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace. Lin Yuan looked at the furnishings in the room. There were plenty of orchids that emitted a faint fragrance. The orchid leaves were green, but they were as straight as the bones of the orchid. Among the lush orchid leaves, there was a small white flower that was blooming. Just looking at it would make one feel refreshed. If the Moon Empress wanted to accept him as a disciple, it was a little sudden for Lin Yuan, and he wasn't prepared at all. If the Moon Empress really wanted to accept a disciple, no one would reject it. However, Lin Yuan was different. Lin Yuan had pitifully few restraints since he was young. Apart from Chu Xiai, the only one who could restrain him was Lu Jia, the retainer he had just taken in not long ago. There was an ancient saying that a teacher for a day was a father for life. The title of teacher was a deep restraint. It was also a kind of affection that could be attributed to kinship. The relationship between teacher and student was very important. Lin Yuan didn't have that many feelings for the Moon Empress right now, and it was more of respect. Therefore, Lin Yuan didn't know how to deal with the Moon Empress when she suddenly called him teacher. While Lin Yuan was pondering, the Moon Empress was using her hands to gently stir the water in the lotus pond. At that moment, a few half-meter-long fish suddenly drilled out from under the lotus leaves. They were like peonies blooming in the water, and their tails were like skirts that were layered and graceful. If Lin Yuan saw these fish, he would be abnormally surprised because they were all spirit siphon goldfish. These spirit siphon goldfish had already grown to platinum in the lotus pond. The Moon Empress was stirring the water with her fingers, causing ripples. These spirit siphon goldfish came over to get close to the Moon Empress. As the Moon Empress stirred the water, her mind was thinking about her first meeting with Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress was very satisfied with Lin Yuan and admired him. In fact, after knowing what Lin Yuan had experienced since he was young, the Moon Empress still had some tender affection for him. However, the Moon Empress also knew that it was too easy for her to accept a disciple. The Moon Empress had always been domineering and handled relationships very simply. However, after today's conversation, the Moon Empress realized that accepting a disciple wasn't like how a creation master could evolve a fae in one go. The Moon Empress recalled the question she had casually asked Lin Yuan. What's the most important thing between master and disciple? The relationship between master and disciple is more important. However, Lin Yuan's answer made the Moon Empress start to think carefully. The Moon Empress was originally planning to accept Lin Yuan as her disciple today, but she didn't want to be in such a hurry now. Since the most important thing between a master and his disciple was their relationship, it needed to be accumulated over a long period of time. At that moment, the Moon Empress heard footsteps. Cold Moon walked into the inner palace and saw the Moon Empress fiddling with the water in the lotus pond as though she was thinking about something. At the same time, Lin Yuan was nowhere to be seen. Can it be that the Moon Empress isn't satisfied with Lin Yuan? Just as Cold Moon was guessing the Moon Empress' thoughts, she heard the Moon Empress ask softly. Sang Yue, don't you think you should learn to look at things from the perspective of an ordinary person after standing at the top for so long? The Moon Empress' words caused Sang Yu's cold expression to turn into one of astonishment. Sang Yu pondered for a moment before replying. I think that after becoming a powerhouse, I have to consider things from the perspective of a powerhouse. Sang Yu's answer was what she was thinking. If a person wanted to become a powerhouse, he would have to cut his way through thorns and thorns, spend a lot of time and experience many hardships. Coupled with outstanding talent, it was possible for one to become a powerhouse. In this world, the strong have their own special rights. Why should they put down their pride and use the thinking of ordinary people to consider things? Wasn't it easier and more direct for the strong to consider things? The Moon Empress stood up, and the water in the lotus pond slid off her jade-like hands and returned to the lotus pond. Cold Moon saw the Moon Empress shake her head with a smile on her lips. Your way of thinking is both right and wrong. Sang Yu, go find me a spiritual ingredient recipe book. Since we need to nurture our relationship when accepting a disciple, let's start with the simplest. Sang Yu's mouth was so wide open that she could almost swallow an egg. What? I didn't hear wrongly, right? The Moon Empress actually wants to cook, and it is to nurture a master-disciple relationship with Lin Yuan. When has the Moon Empress ever cooked before? All of this is simply too fantastical. How is this the Moon Empress isn't satisfied with Lin Yuan? This is simply the Moon Empress being extremely satisfied with Lin Yuan. However, Sang Yu didn't understand why it was so complicated to accept a disciple. Wasn't it just a sentence from the Moon Empress? While Lin Yuan was being reserved and bored in the room, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He heard two crisp sounds coming from outside the attic that he lived in. Lord Lin Yuan, we are under the Moon Empress orders to deliver a change of clothes and prepare the hot water for the pavilion's soup pond. Hearing the voices outside, Lin Yuan let the two in. He saw two young ladies with bright eyes and white teeth, and they were about the same age as him. Both of them were wearing light yellow robes. However, it was obvious that one of them was dressed more exquisitely, while the other one didn't dress much. The soup pond behind the pavilion was connected to an underground warm spring, and when it wasn't used, the spring's mouth would be sealed. When it was time to use it, the restriction on the mouth of the spring would be opened, and hot spring water of exactly 40 degrees Celsius would flow out. After the preparations were done, the delicately dressed young lady looked at Lin Yuan with sparkling eyes. She handed over the spirit chi clothing to Lin Yuan and asked softly, "What do you think?" "Lord Lin Yuan, do you need me to help you change and bathe?" Lin Yuan hurriedly shook his head. "I can do it myself." The exquisitely dressed girl's eyebrows were obviously a little disappointed. "Lord Lin Yuan, we will take our leave." The two girls came to the pavilion and gave it a simple clean. Lin Yuan observed that the two young girls, who were more exquisitely dressed, had been standing next to him the entire time and had been looking for topics to chat about. On the other hand, the unadorned young girl had done almost all the work. It was obvious that she had expended a lot of energy to remove the restrictions on the spring. These two women were both wearing light yellow robes. The Moon Empress had already given him a brief introduction of the deployment on Leaning Moon Mountain. These two women in light yellow robes should be the Radiant Moon Palace's spirit attendants. These spirit attendants were all talented creation masters among the younger generation, and they were all young ladies. As spirit attendants, their statuses were already equal, but it was obvious that one was bullying the other earlier. Chapter 100. People might not be helpless in the pugilistic world, but they would still need to rely on their own capabilities to achieve what they could. Those with great capabilities would naturally do well, while those with weak capabilities would do poorly. However, to be selected as spirit attendants at this age meant that they were all talented individuals. Lin Yuan didn't expect such a situation. Lin Yuan didn't want to bathe in the hot spring, so he simply stood by the window of the pavilion. The pavilion's window was open, and the sky was faintly turning dark. A new moon was slowly rising. However, Lin Yuan didn't expect to see such a scene while standing by the window. The two spirit attendants that were helping to tidy up the pavilion were currently standing not far away from the pavilion and talking about something. As they weren't close, Lin Yuan couldn't see their expressions clearly. However, the wind blowing toward the pavilion carried their conversation to Lin Yuan's ears. If you dare to spread what I said to Lord Lin Yuan today, and I get punished, I will teach you a lesson. The young lady's voice had a threatening tone, and it wasn't as melodious as it was in the pavilion. "Jin Qi, what you said earlier was obviously not the Moon Empress' intention. When did the Moon Empress ask you to bathe and change clothes? What are your plans for making such a decision on your own?" Lin Yuan could vaguely see Jin Ling pushing Wen. "You don't have to care about my plans. If I can climb up to the Lord in this pavilion, no matter what I become, it will be better than being a spirit attendant. If you don't want to improve, it's your own problem." "It's not that I don't want to improve, but I know what I can do and what I can't do." Upon hearing this, an angry voice echoed. "You know what you can do and what you can't do?" Then why did you damage your phase roots to save others? You spent half a year to recover, but during this half a year, we are already about to become Class 2 Creation Masters, while you are only a mid-class Class 1 Creation Master. You are so far behind, and you will be selected for the Spirit Attendant test half a year later. You aren't even fit to stay on the Leaning Moon Mountain. The voice gradually faded away, and the wind carried all of it into Lin Yuan's ears. After hearing these voices, Lin Yuan felt as though he could feel the undetectable human nature hidden in the darkness. Human nature was hidden in the heart. Good or evil, who could truly open the heart and take a look? Lin Yuan closed the window and walked towards the hot spring. The hot spring bath washed away all the dust and fatigue on his body, but it still couldn't wash away the lead that covered his body. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw Tsang Yu walk in with a huge green jade bowl. This is the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that the Moon Empress prepared for you. There are 2 bowls here, and you only need to finish half of it. Drinking more would be a waste. With that, Tsang Yu left. Even now, Cold Moon was still in a state of shock. She couldn't understand why the Moon Empress was treating Lin Yuan so well. Bestowing treasures was extremely common. Even if Tsang Yu was bestowed with an extremely precious treasure, she would not feel this way. However, the Moon Empress was already putting in effort to cook for Lin Yuan. Such an action was self-evident. It proved that the Moon Empress really took Lin Yuan seriously and treated him as her disciple. A big bowl of amber-colored silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was placed in front of Lin Yuan, but it didn't have any taste. Actually, it made sense. The more precious something was, the more reserved it would be at times. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar didn't have any smell because all the essence was locked in the nectar. Looking at this big bowl of nectar that was enough for 2 people, Lin Yuan's heart suddenly felt warm. It was as though he vaguely understood the Moon Empress' deep meaning. Since this nectar was no longer effective after drinking half of it, then the other half could only be prepared for the person closest to him. That person was Chu Ci. If there was only a small bowl of something that could cleanse the body's impurities and enhance one's constitution, Lin Yuan would probably leave half for Chu Ci. Lin Yuan would probably leave half for Chu Ci, but the Moon Empress had actually thought of this. Suddenly, an idiom popped up in Lin Yuan's mind. Love me, love my dog. However, Lin Yuan immediately shook his head. The Moon Empress didn't know Chu Ci, so there was naturally no such thing as love me, love my dog. Therefore, the reason she did this was because she was thinking for him. Suddenly, Lin Yuan had a feeling of being cared for by an elder. This feeling was salty and astringent. It made Lin Yuan think of his parents, Auntie Zhang, and Uncle Li. These people had never asked for anything in return for their contributions. They had contributed from the bottom of their hearts. It was the same for the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan knew that he didn't have anything to repay the Moon Empress. It was obvious what kind of treasure the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was from Elder Du and Elder Meng's reactions. Such a big bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar had at least 500 drops. Lin Yuan might not be able to produce such a bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar even if he worked hard for a few years. Moreover, there were only 2 silver stamen gold luster cassias in the world, and they were exclusive to the Moon Empress. All of this was because the Moon Empress wanted to be a master. Although she hadn't officially accepted him as a disciple, she was already doing it. This gave Lin Yuan an indescribable feeling. Was it warmth or was it touching? Or was it something else? In any case, in Lin Yuan's eyes, the Moon Empress wasn't just a Class 5 creation master that stood at the peak. She was a senior that would give him a trace of warmth whenever he thought of her. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar could wash away the impurities in the body and enhance one's constitution. Lin Yuan picked up the bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and drank half of it in one go. When the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar entered his throat, it had a rich sweetness that contained the sweet fragrance of osmanthus. When the nectar that wasn't too viscous entered his stomach, a bitterness that was unique to plants appeared at the base of his tongue. This bitterness appeared at the base of his tongue, and it immediately turned sweet. His mouth and tongue were once again filled with the fragrant sweetness of the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Not long after drinking it, Lin Yuan suddenly felt his body heating up. His skin started to secrete a large amount of oil, and the color of the oil wasn't the normal yellow oil. Instead, it was brownish red with some black spots. When the oil appeared, Lin Yuan smelled an unbearable odor. Lin Yuan immediately entered the hot spring again, and under Lin Yuan's washing, the impurities were dissolved in the hot spring. It was fortunate that the hot spring's restriction was opened, and the hot spring was constantly flowing. Otherwise, the more he washed, the more impurities there were, and the hot spring would immediately have that extremely unpleasant smell. After washing for over 2 hours, Lin Yuan finally realized that his body wouldn't secrete these disgusting impurities anymore. These impurities were innately present in the human body, and when humans ate grains, these impurities would accumulate. When these impurities accumulated, ordinary people would suffer from some terminal illnesses. When these impurities accumulated for spirit qi professionals, it would affect their bone frame, which was also the so-called cultivation speed. Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power and realized that after he circulated his spiritual power circulation speed increased by at least 30%. This discovery made Lin Yuan abnormally surprised. But immediately after, Lin Yuan suddenly noticed his hand. Chapter 101. This novel will be published at noon today. Button would like to thank everyone for their support and companionship. As the author of this, Beast Evolution Quotient, I can also be considered the parent of this book. I have a few words to say. First of all, I would like to thank the friends who have been recommending me and tipping me. I've been keeping an eye on them, and there are many readers whose names I feel are very familiar with. Here, I would like to bow to all of you to express my gratitude. I'm really bowing. There have been many bumps along the way for this book, and the starting point has been changed to creation. This book was actually written after reading some novels and wanting to create a world of its own. The world is bigger, so sometimes I want to write in more detail. I'm not a newcomer. I've also written a 2D novel with 1.6 million words. Button writes very slowly. She has to work during the day, so she writes at home at night. It was quite difficult at first, but she slowly persevered. Because it's quite lonely when she writes alone. Slowly, the recommendation votes increased, and there were also many comments after that. Button would read it seriously regardless of whether it was good or bad. Slowly, I established a reader group, and after I gained some readers who supported me, I became even more determined to continue writing this book. After signing the contract, I also had a chance to test the waters. I would like to express my gratitude here. Button is a very easygoing person. I don't know what to say. In short, this novel is going to be published. Please support me. The story of this book is still long, so please give me your guidance. Also, just like other novels, I'm asking for recommendation votes, comments, evaluations, subscriptions, favorites, and monthly tickets. Aren't I greedy? QAQ, thank you for your support. Yes, that's all. Chapter 102. Lin Yuan could see that this hand was white and slender, but it wasn't feminine. The bone structure was clearly defined and just right. Just looking at the palm, it was white with a tinge of red, and there were unique veins on the palm. Is this my hand? Lin Yuan had always been on the path of temperament, and his excellent temperament coupled with his sunny appearance made him look fresh and fresh. However, Lin Yuan's hand wasn't like this in the past. Lin Yuan had been an ordinary person for 18 years, and the arduous labor had caused his palm to grow some inconspicuous calluses. His body might have recovered after he could sense spirit qi, but the skinny Lin Yuan's body wasn't strong. But now, apart from this pair of hands, Lin Yuan realized that his body had also become meticulously sculpted. Is this the effect of the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar's cleansing of impurities and strengthening the bone frame? Everyone had their own unique genetic model after their parents gave birth to them. There would always be flaws in the growing genes, causing a person to not be able to completely evolve toward the genetic model. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar's essence was to cleanse the body's impurities and strengthen the bone frame. The nectar's energy would fill in the body's flaws and allow the body to evolve toward the perfect genetic model. After leaving the hot spring, the skin would automatically bounce off the water in the hot spring. The skin wouldn't be overly fair and would have a light honey color instead. Lin Yuan walked in front of the mirror and looked at it. He realized that the person in the mirror was still himself, but his appearance was more exquisite. The youthful aura that was mixed with the fragrance of grass and the warm sunlight formed a wonderful temperament. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh. He actually felt that the person in the mirror was really handsome. However, when he thought that the person in the mirror was himself, Lin Yuan couldn't help but shake his head. I'm not such a narcissistic person. For the next few days, Lin Yuan ate the Moon Empress' spiritual ingredients and delicacies in the Radiant Moon Palace. However, the Moon Empress didn't let Lin Yuan know. During the day, the Moon Empress would call Lin Yuan to her breeding room. She didn't teach Lin Yuan anything special and just let him see how she enhanced the phase. Lin Yuan watched very seriously. With the Moon Empress' display of techniques and the knowledge that genius had learned, Lin Yuan realized that the appropriate combination of spiritual ingredients could greatly assist the phase evolution. Lin Yuan's method might be far inferior to a proper creation master's, but he still benefited greatly. Upon seeing how serious Lin Yuan was, the Moon Empress was very happy. She displayed it very carefully and would even give him some pointers from time to time. Although they had only been in contact for a few days, they were no longer as distant as they had been in the beginning. Lin Yuan was slowly treating the Moon Empress as his master. The Moon Empress was also wholeheartedly treating Lin Yuan as her disciple. The Moon Empress realized that the relationship between master and disciple wasn't as simple as a form of address. After accepting the other party, they would really pour their heart and soul into it. During these few days, Lin Yuan realized that apart from the few vine birds that could be used as assistants in the Moon Empress breeding room, the Moon Empress didn't have any other vine birds. There was also a little rabbit that was always eating carrots. No matter how much it ate, it seemed as if it could not finish the carrots in its hands. Every time Lin Yuan wanted to hug it, the little bunny would dodge and scamper to other places to play by itself. On this day, after the Moon Empress nurtured phase, she called Lin Yuan over to her side and asked, "Do you have any plans after this?" Lin Yuan listened to the Moon Empress' question and thought for a moment before replying. "I plan to open a shop in the capital next year. After some time, I will have to return to the Xia region to settle some matters." The Moon Empress nodded and replied, "A creation master or spirit chi professional will have to experience many things along the way, such as exploring dimensional rifts, capturing phase in primeval forests, deserts, and rivers. All of these have to be experienced, and coming to the royal capital is indeed a good choice." Lin Yuan nodded. This world was very big, so big that it seemed to have no boundaries. He was desperately trying to improve his strength so that he could have the ability to explore the world. However, Lin Yuan still had an ambition now, and that was to become a member of the Radiance 100 sequence. Therefore, Lin Yuan spoke his mind. The Moon Empress let out a faint smile. "Then you have to work hard. Since you want to compete for the Radiance 100 sequence, I have to tell you that the Radiance 100 sequence is just the beginning. The Radiance 100 sequence is just a seed to become a Radiance envoy." This was the first time Lin Yuan had heard of a Radiance envoy. He had never heard of it before, be it in the news or on Star Web. The Rain Empress looked at Lin Yuan and said, "That's right. There are only 5 Radiance envoys, and they are the true steel-like backbone of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. Radiance envoys will only be selected from the Radiance 100 sequence." After speaking, the Moon Empress pondered for a moment and continued. "The Radiance Federation is very big, but there is not only one Radiance Federation in this world. The Saint Dynasty Federation and the Crimson Dark Federation can compete with the Radiance Federation as equals. The three major federations exist side by side. There are also hundreds of small federations that are independent. The Radiance Envoys represent the competition between the Radiance Federation's younger generation and the major federation's younger generation. The Moon Empress words shocked Lin Yuan. In this world, just the Radiance Federation alone was so big that it almost had no boundaries, but there were still two federations that could compete with the Radiance Federation. In addition to the hundreds of small federations, Lin Yuan really could not imagine how big this world's territory was. The Radiance Envoy was just a title, but it made Lin Yuan's blood boil. It was an honor and a mission at the same time. The responsibility that the Radiance Envoy shouldered was glorious and arduous. The Moon Empress patted Lin Yuan's shoulder with eyes full of encouragement and eagerness. Previously, the Moon Empress had asked Lin Yuan, and when Lin Yuan had expressed that he wanted to rely on himself for the road ahead, she had really had a headache. However, the Moon Empress was also proud of Lin Yuan's choice, as it was hard not to admire such a temperament. However, as a teacher, the Moon Empress would not be lacking in the things that she had to do. I received news from the spirit guards. There is an anomaly in the Water Luster Forest, and the situation is still unclear. I will bring you there later to take a look. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. He had not seen much of the outside world, especially the mountains and forests. There were plenty of fays in the mountains and forests, and almost every piece of the mountains and forests had a fay ruling over an area. As such, ordinary people did not have the opportunity to enter. Now that there was a chance, Lin Yuan was rather excited. You can go to the royal capital to take a stroll during these few days. Apart from the Radiance 100 sequence, if you have the idea, you can also create a guild-type club. A guild-type club can form its own 5-member team and participate in the guild competition. The top-ranked glory teams are not inferior to the Radiance 100 sequence. Many of the Radiance 100 sequence members are also members of some 5-member guild teams. It could be said that the Moon Empress had put in a lot of effort in teaching Lin Yuan. The number of words she had spoken to Lin Yuan over the past few days was even more than the Moon Empress's 2 months. Even if it was a small matter, the Moon Empress would explain everything in detail. When the words "create a guild club" flashed in Lin Yuan's mind, he was actually rather moved. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 103. After thinking about it for a while, he gave up on the idea of establishing a guild club. It wasn't the right time to establish a guild club yet. A guild club's main purpose was to nurture its own team. A competition team had to have 5 members. Teammates that fought together couldn't be sloppy when looking for them. Teammates in a combat team had to trust each other. Only with mutual trust and cooperation could the team's strongest combat power be unleashed. A powerful team didn't rely on heroism. Instead, each member had their own role: power, attack, agility, defense, control, support, healing, and many other aspects. Finally, when they complemented each other, they could present the most perfect team state. Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't be sloppy when choosing a team. Similarly, Lin Yuan also knew that he didn't have the qualifications to form a team yet. At the end of the day, he was still too weak. It wouldn't be too late to make plans after reaching the 100th floor of the Star Tower and stepping into the celestial stairway. Before leaving, the Moon Empress called out to Lin Yuan and said, "Take this. Take this." After speaking, she tossed an exquisitely shaped pendant to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan took a closer look and realized that this leaf-shaped pendant looked like it was carved from jade. However, rather than saying that this pendant was suitable to be worn around the neck, Lin Yuan felt that it would be better to wear it on his body. It was more suitable as a brooch. Upon seeing Lin Yuan observing this leaf-shaped jade brooch, the Moon Empress explained, "This is a diamond face storage box. This is a diamond face storage box." It is filled with the corpses of all sorts of dimensional life forms, ranging from Class 1 exotic beasts at bronze to Class 4 exotic beasts at platinum. Don't you have a source seed? You can use the flesh and blood of these dimensional life forms to feed it. After speaking, the Moon Empress waved her hand, indicating that Lin Yuan could leave. She then continued to concoct the spirit fluid in her hand. When Lin Yuan left the Moon Empress breeding room, he was holding this leaf-shaped brooch. He had long heard that the Ostrich Logistics diamond face storage box was usually used as a high-class decoration. It was completely different from the face storage boxes before platinum. Lin Yuan didn't have any concept of this. Now that he was holding this small brooch-shaped diamond face storage box and pouring spirit chi into it, Lin Yuan saw that the diamond face storage box was about the size of a football field, and the corpses of various dimensional life forms were placed according to their grades and species. If these corpses were to be consumed by Red Thorn, it wouldn't take long for Red Thorn to advance to bronze level. Apart from that, he also found 2 pots of strange plants in the corner of the diamond face storage box. Lin Yuan used True Data to check and found that they were 2 pots of platinum production type phase. One pot was called cane loofah, and it was a nutritious food specially for miscellaneous phase. The other pot was called celery vine, which was a rare nutritious food for herbivorous phase. Be it the platinum cane loofah or the platinum celery vine, they were countless times more expensive than the platinum usnea. The platinum usnea was considered a very rare production type phase. The production of the usnea vines at the platinum level was astonishing. A pot of platinum usnea would produce 100 platinum usnea vines every day, which could be used to feed a large number of phase. However, be it the cane loofah or the celery vine, the production was relatively small, and it was usually only enough for 1 or 2 phase to eat every day. No matter what, the platinum usnea had an advantage. However, apart from containing energy, the cane loofah and the celery vine also had a trace of the effect of stimulating the bloodline potential. Any fae that could stimulate the bloodline potential, even if it was just a spiritual ingredient, would not be cheap. Moreover, it was a production type fae that could produce a certain amount every day. It seemed that Red Thorn, Chimey, and Genius could exchange for rations. The diamond face storage box was considered a luxury item and expensive, but it was undoubtedly insignificant compared to the items in the face storage box. Lin Yuan recalled the scene of the Moon Empress casually throwing the diamond face storage box to him and asking him to hurry up and leave, and his heart felt warm. This feeling of being cared for by an elder was rare in Lin Yuan's life. Even if there was, it was too long ago, so Lin Yuan cherished every such feeling. After returning to his pavilion, Lin Yuan found that Lu Jie had sent him a lot of messages in the past few days. When he opened the messages, it turned out that Lu Jie had found a few good locations after coming to the royal capital, and the prices were also considered suitable. These locations were relatively suitable for opening a store, and Lin Yuan could not help but admire Lu Jie's efficiency. In fact, as a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, even if he had disappeared for 2 years and suddenly appeared in the royal capital, it would be easy for him to find some suitable stores to open in the royal capital. However, Lin Yuan was not particularly satisfied with these stores, as they were still relatively small. After seeing the Radiant Moon Palace's picturesque scenery, where every ornament was a fae, Lin Yuan had an idea. That was to say, he had to design his own shop well. Although it would definitely not be comparable to the Radiant Moon Palace, he had to design some quality. For example, after the cinnabar sweet osmanthus in his spirit lock spatial zone recovered, Lin Yuan still wanted to plant it in his store's courtyard. Therefore, this store had to be big. Otherwise, if the store was too small and had to move, it would be better to find a place that was big enough. It did not matter if it was a little remote. Lin Yuan was very confident in himself. Fragrant wine needs no bush. Lin Yuan replied to Lu Jie, saying that he still had to buy a bigger store. Lin Yuan thought that since he was in the royal capital, he might as well arrange to meet Lu Jie in the royal capital tomorrow afternoon. It had been a few days since he went on the star web. Lin Yuan logged on the star web to take a look. He realized that he had really received a lot of messages over the past few days, and most of them were sent to him by a single person. This person was the bad-tempered person who had come to his store to wait for Faye's. It was already October, and Lin Yuan had promised the bad-tempered person that he would treat her daughter's Faye after October. Now that it was October, the bad-tempered person was obviously a little restless. "See if I stab you or not, master, I have prepared the revival soil. I wonder when you are free to take a look at my daughter. I am in the royal capital. Where is master? I can rush over with my daughter." Lin Yuan did not expect the bad-tempered person to be from the royal capital, so he simply sent a message. He set the time for tomorrow morning, and the treatment location was set at the royal capital's Creation Master Association. Lin Yuan did not have his own store yet, so if he wanted to treat the bad-tempered person's daughter's Faye, he could only set it at the Creation Master Association. Class 2 Creation Masters could already use the breeding room for free. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would not have allowed the bad-tempered person to bring her daughter up the Leaning Moon Mountain. After logging off the star web, Lin Yuan stretched his body. He had already made arrangements for tomorrow. After treating the Fae in the morning, he could just meet Lu Jia in the afternoon. However, Lin Yuan had forgotten about Qing Rui, whose eyes had turned from jealousy to resentment. It was at the royal capital's Creation Master Association. Baiduan was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 104. Early the next morning, sunlight shone into the pavilion that Lin Yuan was staying in. Genius curled its two small white tails and lay on Lin Yuan's stomach. Perhaps Genius felt that Lin Yuan's clothes weren't comfortable enough when it was sleeping last night, so it used its small claws to lift up the clothes on Lin Yuan's stomach. Genius was currently lying on Lin Yuan's stomach and was having a beautiful dream along with Lin Yuan's breathing. Chimey was also sleeping soundly on Lin Yuan's neck. Chimey hadn't logged onto the star web ever since it arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace. Therefore, it didn't know how much turmoil had happened on the star web during its disappearance. It was fine on the first day that Chimey disappeared, and many people treated it as a normal host's discontinuation. However, when it was close to a week, Chimey's fans were in an uproar. This included the Radiance 100 Sequence 87, Lord Ranger, who had always been beside Chimey. All of this had nothing to do with Lin Yuan and Genius. The trio of trash back then had already changed, and they were all extremely valuable. After Lin Yuan woke up, Genius and Chimey followed his movements and woke up as well. Genius and Chimey had been tormenting Lin Yuan since early in the morning. Genius was rather steady, but Chimey was extremely mischievous when it threw a tantrum. Only after Lin Yuan fed Genius the cane loofah's fruit and Chimey the celery vine's vine did it stop. This was the first time Genius and Chimey had eaten such good food, and their eyes were glistening while they ate with a satisfied expression. Lin Yuan placed Red Thorn into the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box on his chest. As a source seed, Red Thorn knew what was the most suitable food for it. Lin Yuan had planned an evolution path for Red Thorn, so the insect corpses in the face storage box could simply be considered a paradise for Red Thorn's evolution. After eating a large number of insect corpses yesterday, Red Thorn had fallen into a deep sleep. Over the past few days, Red Thorn had reached Elite 7 and Flawless. Lin Yuan had asked Red Thorn to slow down its evolution speed and enhance its quality. With a large amount of alien insect flesh, Lin Yuan believed that Red Thorn would soon become an elite/epic existence. The people on the Leaning Moon Mountain had already gotten to know Lin Yuan. It was not that Lin Yuan deliberately wanted to get to know the people on the Leaning Moon Mountain, but the people on the Leaning Moon Mountain were all scrambling to get to know Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. It might not have been officially announced, but smart people could tell Lin Yuan's identity on the Leaning Moon Mountain. Moreover, in a place like the Leaning Moon Mountain, who would be stupid? In the morning, Lin Yuan did not eat breakfast on the Leaning Moon Mountain. Instead, he went down the mountain early after greeting the Moon Empress. It was Lin Yuan's first time coming to the royal capital. Previously, he had only been on the back of the blue jade Pegasus to see the prosperity of the royal capital. Lin Yuan had long wanted to walk around the streets of the royal capital and take a look. Now, there was finally a chance. The prosperity seen in the capital and the prosperity seen on the back of the blue jade Pegasus were two completely different things. Walking on the streets of the royal capital and feeling the vitality of the vibrant royal capital early in the morning, he couldn't help but feel a little more lively. Lin Yuan saw a small store selling fried golden and tough deep-fried dough sticks and sesame balls, so he walked in. At first, he ordered a fried dough stick, a sesame seed ball, and a bowl of soy milk. There were plenty of customers sitting around. After Lin Yuan ate all of them, he rubbed his stomach and didn't feel full at all. He simply ordered a steamer of soup dumplings. Lin Yuan realized that after drinking the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, his appetite had increased significantly. After finishing his meal, he used his star web card to settle the bill. When he walked out of the store, Lin Yuan didn't realize that since he was eating, plenty of people in the store were looking at him. Even their eating speed had increased. When the lady boss, who had been busy in the kitchen, saw this scene, she couldn't help but mutter. Is this what it means to be a feast for the eyes? Being handsome can also be a good meal. The number of customers in the breakfast store didn't increase, but it seems like the sales are 50% higher than usual. After exiting the store, Lin Yuan saw a young couple after taking a few steps. The woman twisted open the cola in her hand and drank a mouthful. She looked at the bottle cap and blinked her big eyes. Hubby, what's another bottle? The man looked at his girlfriend and said casually, Hubby, what's another bottle? I don't know either. Thus, the woman simply tossed the bottle cap on the ground, and the two of them walked forward. Lin Yuan took a look at the bottle cap on the ground and then at the royal capital's main street. The main street was practically spotless, and only this red bottle cap seemed a little out of place. Lin Yuan simply went forward to pick up the bottle cap on the ground and was about to throw it into the trash can at the side. That big-eyed girl knocked on her boyfriend's chest and said excitedly, the bottle cap I took earlier said, thank you for your patronage. The bottle cap I took just now was filled with, thank you for your patronage. We made a bet earlier that you would treat us tonight. I told you that someone would definitely pick it up. Lin Yuan was currently tossing the bottle cap into the trash can when he felt a group of crows flying over his head. Lin Yuan really wanted to go forward and say, I didn't read the words on the bottle cap. However, Lin Yuan didn't do so, as it would make him look like a dumb idiot. This adulterous couple was truly ruthless. After showing off their love, they still wanted to butcher him. Lin Yuan picking up the bottle caps on the ground was actually a kind of habit. Just like the street in front of the Xia region's store, Lin Yuan had to clean up all the dirty things himself. If he didn't clean up, the cleaning staff would come once a week. It was fine for the first few days, but on the third day, the dust on the ground would affect the mood of the customers who came to the store to purchase goods. Therefore, Lin Yuan would sweep the street in front of the store every 2 days and throw the dirty things into the trash can. After accumulating for a long time, Lin Yuan had formed a habit. Lin Yuan arrived at the street corner and booked a speed-hoofed donkey cart. Thick-hoofed donkey carts could no longer be seen in the royal capital. The thick-hoofed donkey was an elite fey and was rather slow. The speed-hoofed donkey carts in the royal capital were all bronze feys, and their speed wasn't just slightly faster than the thick-hoofed donkey carts. After riding on the speed-hoofed donkey cart for close to an hour, Lin Yuan finally arrived at the royal capital's Creation Master Association. The royal capital's Creation Master Association was much further away than he had imagined. Of course, it also showed that the royal capital was truly huge. Lin Yuan's chest was wearing a Class 2 Creation Master crest, and when he entered the royal capital's Creation Master Association, someone immediately welcomed him. Lin Yuan had booked an ordinary Class 2 Creation Master's breeding room and had just booked a room. Lin Yuan saw the bad-tempered woman bringing along an extremely thin and weak girl with dull eyes as they carefully stood in the corner of the hall. Seeing that Lin Yuan was looking at the mother and daughter, the attendant that was in charge of receiving Lin Yuan quickly said, "They said that they have made an appointment with a creation master. They said that they had made an appointment with a creation master and had let them in. If you feel uncomfortable, I can immediately chase them out." Lin Yuan quickly shook his head. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a rather familiar voice. Who is the one receiving these two people? Why is the Creation Master Association allowing anyone to enter, and why are they standing in the hall? Do they have an appointment? Lin Yuan looked towards the direction of the voice and saw that it was Qing Rui. However, the current Qing Rui wasn't like how he was a few days ago. He was insufferably arrogant and domineering. Baidu, go and read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 105. Lin Yuan frowned. Cheng Rui's insufferably arrogant and domineering words were truly grating to the ears. It was as if he was treating the violent-tempered woman and her daughter as inferior beings. He didn't even treat the two of them as his own kind, because that was the only way he would have such a gaze and tone. The management of each Creation Master Association would be different. The management of the Creation Master Association was mostly based on the current manager's decision. For example, the Redbud City's Creation Master Association was very relaxed with regards to the participants of the Creation Master exam. They would just need to show 3 pieces of proof of passing the primary lifestyle class Spirit Chi exam to register for the exam. However, before the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association verified the validity of the 3 lifestyle class Spirit Chi exams, the examinees weren't allowed to enter the Creation Master Association. Furthermore, the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association had already cancelled the Knowledge Occupation Assessment Service in the Creation Master Association. In comparison, the Redbud City's Creation Master Association was much more amiable. The harsh management rules of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association had imperceptibly pushed the already high status of Creation Masters even higher. Not friendly at all. The staff member beside Lin Yuan, who had just received Lin Yuan, quickly jogged over and bowed to Cheng Rui. Young Master Cheng and his daughter said that they have an appointment with a Creation Master, so I asked them to come in and wait. Cheng Rui glanced at the mother and daughter in disdain and asked, "What is the name of your Creation Master? Report your name and let little Zhang verify it." The attendant who had been serving Lin Yuan earlier, little Zhang, quickly patted his chest and guaranteed. Then, he secretly glanced at Lin Yuan, who he had thrown there, but he did not move. In Xiao Zhang's heart, Lin Yuan might be a new Class 2 Creation Master, but he was still incomparable to Cheng Rui, even though he was young and had a lot of talent. In fact, it wasn't mainly about talent. Cheng Rui's status was already there. Not only was he the #1 Creation Master of the younger generation, but he also had the title of Feng Yang when he was just a Class 2 Creation Master. More importantly, Cheng Rui's grandfather was a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master. Just based on this point alone, none of the attendants in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association wouldn't bother to curry favor with Cheng Rui. For a moment, the bad-tempered woman was dumbfounded. She had communicated with Lin Yuan on Star Web, and she only knew his name on Star Web. However, he couldn't possibly say Lin Yuan's name on Star Web, right? If he were to say it out loud, he would probably be kicked out as a troublemaker. Cheng Rui saw that the person in front of him didn't speak for a long time, so he threw the document in his hand on the table. The girl, whose eyes did not have any luster to begin with, was so frightened that she huddled tightly in the arms of the violent-tempered woman. Her fiery and shrewish temperament had been completely hidden in the Creation Master Association. Therefore, when Cheng Rui threw her, her body trembled. Cheng Rui glanced at Xiao Zhang and shouted, "Get them out! If they dare to cause trouble in the Creation Master Association, they will not be allowed to enter the Creation Master Association for the next year." The violent-tempered woman was so anxious that her forehead was covered in sweat. Her daughter's face source was damaged, and she could not delay any longer. If he delayed any longer, he would be wasting his daughter's potential. In the span of a year, he saw that his daughter's eyes had become dull and lifeless. The violent-tempered woman felt as though a knife was twisting in her heart. Lin Yuan was extremely furious, and his opinion of the royal capital's Creation Master Association had become extremely bad. It was obvious that this wasn't Cheng Rui's first time doing such a thing. However, the upper echelons of the royal capital's Creation Master Association would definitely see such an action. Therefore, they could only tacitly approve of such actions. Just as Xiao Zhang was about to throw a tantrum, Lin Yuan stepped forward and said, "The Creation Master he made an appointment with is me. I have already booked the breeding room. Bring us there immediately." When the violent-tempered woman saw Lin Yuan, her eyes instantly had luster. She quickly pulled her daughter and called out to Lin Yuan, "Master." When the attendant, Xiao Zhang, saw Lin Yuan, he was also delighted as he finally didn't have to chase people out. The people who came to the royal capital's Creation Master Association were either experts or were respectfully invited in. They were also spirit chi professionals who were here to evolve phase and improve their phase quality. Of course, there were also those who had saved up for a long time to heal phase with damaged sources. Of course, there were also some phase that had been saving for a long time to heal their damaged roots. The world of spirit chi professionals was realistic, but the world of creation masters was even more realistic. The world of spirit chi professionals was realistic, but the world of creation masters was even more realistic. The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association was a perfect example of the saying, "A penny stumps a hero." Cheng Rui's insufferably arrogant and domineering expression suddenly crumbled upon hearing Lin Yuan's words. In an instant, the resentment spread from the bottom of his heart to his eyes. Just as Xiao Zhang was about to bring Lin Yuan to the breeding room, he didn't expect to hear Cheng Rui's strange laughter. Cheng Rui walked closer and was less than 1 meter away from Lin Yuan. He looked at the Creation Master crest on Lin Yuan's right chest and said, "That's right. I thought you would have won if you had stayed back that day. So you didn't succeed either." When a low-class Creation Master had a master, if the Creation Master was a Class 4 or above Class 4 Creation Master, then as a master-disciple relationship, the disciple's Creation Master crest would have the master's mark. After Cheng Rui found out that he didn't have the chance to become the Moon Empress disciple, his Class 2 Creation Master crest now had a spine gu pattern on the 2 stars. The spine gu was vivid and lifelike, and the golden rings on its body were carved with great detail. Cheng Rui had already become the disciple of his grandfather. His Creation Master crest naturally had the mark of a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master, Cheng Wu. Cheng Rui had only worn this new Creation Master crest for a few days. Now that he saw that Lin Yuan's crest was empty, Cheng Rui felt secretly pleased. At the same time, the resentment gave birth to malevolence and cruelty. Cheng Rui knew that he wasn't a match for Long Tao and couldn't do anything to Long Tao. Therefore, all the resentment was transferred to Lin Yuan. Cheng Rui suddenly turned to look at the violent-tempered woman and said, "You are calling him master? Is he even worthy? Is he even worthy? He's just a lucky bastard." Just as Cheng Rui finished speaking, he heard a pleasant voice that was clean and clear. However, it was very piercing to Cheng Rui's ears. Good luck is also a kind of ability. Class 2 Creation Masters are still far from being worthy of being called master. Therefore, I would rather not be worthy. Cheng Rui was in disbelief. He had already investigated Lin Yuan's background. Lin Yuan was merely from a small place like Redbud City's Xia region. How could someone from such a small place dare to be so rude to him? He actually dared to talk back. Cheng Rui subconsciously replied with the most classic and simplest vulgar greeting to his mother. Before Cheng Rui could react, he was kicked in the stomach by Lin Yuan, and he fell out. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 106. Cheng Rui was dumbfounded by the kick and felt a cramping pain in his stomach. This was the first time in Cheng Rui's life that someone had kicked him in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground. There was only one thought in Cheng Rui's mind, and it kept repeating. How dare he? After consuming the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, Lin Yuan's spirit chi professional rank didn't increase and was still a C rank spirit chi professional. However, Lin Yuan's physical body had evolved, and his strength had increased significantly. When he kicked Cheng Rui with anger, Cheng Rui had suffered a significant injury. If Cheng Rui wasn't a C rank spirit chi professional, he would probably have vomited his stomach juice and bile. The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association's receptionist, Xiao Zhang, didn't expect someone to make a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. It was especially so for Cheng Rui. Xiao Zhang quickly went forward to support Cheng Rui, but Cheng Rui's pale face was clutching his stomach. Even with Xiao Zhang's support, Cheng Rui couldn't get up. The bad-tempered girl and the bad-tempered girl were also shocked by this sudden change. After Lin Yuan kicked, his expression was still very unpleasant. His parents' affection had always been the most sacred place in his heart. Although he had lost his parents at a young age, Lin Yuan, who had transmigrated, remembered every scene of his childhood in his heart. After Cheng Rui cursed at his family, Lin Yuan had angrily kicked him. Lin Yuan had always been a good-tempered person. He had been supporting a face store since young and had to deal with different customers every day. Even so, when the sacred place in his heart was violated, Lin Yuan's angry kick contained all the strength in his body and wasn't careless. This was also the first time Lin Yuan had hit someone in his 18 years of life. After a long moment, Cheng Rui finally stood up with Xiao Zhang's support. Cheng Rui gritted his teeth and looked at Lin Yuan viciously. You actually dared to hit me. Not only that, but you also dared to make a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. How dare you? After speaking, Cheng Rui pushed away Xiao Zhang and said coldly, why are you still supporting me? Hurry up and call the law enforcers over. Hurry up and call the law enforcers over. Even if a Class 2 Creation Master makes a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association, he can forget about leaving. Just as Cheng Rui finished speaking, he suddenly heard an old and furious voice. Cheng Rui. You are crazy. What are you yelling about? Lin Yuan looked toward the voice and realized that he had seen the person before. It was Elder Du, whom he had met in the Radiant Moon Palace. Elder Du walked to Lin Yuan's side and smiled. Lin Yuan, why didn't you inform me in advance that you are coming to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association? If you want to come again, just look for me inside. I will arrange anything for you. Lin Yuan might have a very bad impression of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. However, Lin Yuan still nodded and greeted the Class 4 Creation Master. Elder Du. Cheng Rui was shocked and furious at the same time. When he saw Elder Du's attitude toward Lin Yuan, he couldn't help but recall everything that had happened in the Radiant Moon Palace. He shouted at Old Du, Elder Du, he actually dares to make a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. We must punish them severely. Otherwise, what prestige does the Creation Master Association have? Old Man Du frowned as he looked at Cheng Rui unhappily. He was cursing Cheng Rui in his heart. It was precisely because of this brat who didn't know how to weigh the consequences that he was held accountable by Blue Moon Emissary, and a disaster nearly befell him. But now, Cheng Rui was still unrepentant. What was he up to now? Cheng Wu might have arrived at the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association, but he had been in seclusion ever since he arrived. Old Man Du had yet to tell Cheng Wu about Cheng Rui. Cheng Rui might be a member of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association, and Jiang Yi was the vice president of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. However, Cheng Rui was still the grandson of Cheng Wu, a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master. Old Man Du knew that if he rashly disciplined Cheng Rui, Cheng Wu would have a bad opinion of him. Thus, Elder Du had been waiting for Cheng Wu to come out of seclusion for the past few days. But now, Cheng Rui was provoking them again. Old Man Du said coldly. Cheng Rui, how many times have you fought in the guild? If I want to deal with someone, I'll deal with you first. Elder Du looked at the surrounding Creation Master Association's law enforcers and yelled out. Disperse. What's the point of making such a ruckus in the hall? Then, he asked the receptionist, Xiao Zhang, who was standing at the side, to clarify the situation. Elder Du was the vice president of the Creation Master Association, and Xiao Zhang didn't even have the chance to chat with him. Now that Elder Du asked, little Zhang explained everything in detail, including Lin Yuan's request. The more Elder Du listened, the worse his complexion became. In the end, his face completely darkened. He glared fiercely at Cheng Rui and said to Lin Yuan, "That's right. Come, I will personally bring you to my breeding room. Feel free to use it." Lin Yuan shook his head and pointed at the violent-tempered woman. "There is no need to trouble Elder Du. I just want to help my friend heal a Fei's damaged roots. A normal breeding room is enough." Old Man Du laughed and said, "What's so troublesome about that? Since that is the case, I will bring you to the Class 2 Creation Master's breeding room. It just so happens that I am going upstairs as well." After speaking, Elder Du brought Lin Yuan upstairs. The violent-tempered woman followed behind, completely frightened. The conflict was actually resolved by the vice president of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. Moreover, they seemed to be completely biased towards the youth who was walking forward in front of him. Just what kind of background did this youth have, and how much power did he have? In fact, the violent-tempered woman wasn't the only one who was thinking this way. The members of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association were also looking at the young man's vanishing figure. Cheng Rui was left standing on the spot with a gloomy expression, his hands still clutching his stomach where he had just been kicked. Cheng Rui simply didn't know what Elder Du was thinking. Just by looking at the Creation Master crest on Lin Yuan's chest, he knew that Lin Yuan didn't even become the Moon Empress disciple. If Elder Du knew what Cheng Rui was thinking, his suppressed anger would probably burst out and send a slap over. Elder Du had already noticed the Creation Master crest on Lin Yuan's chest. However, not all Creation Masters would allow their disciples to wear an emblem with their own mark after accepting a disciple. Some Creation Masters would choose to let their disciples wear normal emblems in order to temper them. They wouldn't enjoy special privileges. Apart from that, some disciples wouldn't wear the Creation Master crest with their master's mark on their chest either. Not everyone wanted to rely on their master's glory and wanted to rely on themselves to walk their own path. For example, the Moon Empress, Bamboo Monarch, and Chef Supreme would never wear the Radiance Federation's only 3 Class 5 Creation Master crests on their chests. Could it be that the Moon Empress, Bamboo Monarch, and Chef Supreme weren't Creation Masters? However, Elder Du had overestimated Cheng Rui. A person like Cheng Rui, who couldn't wait to display all his glory and trump cards on his face, naturally wouldn't understand. Elder Du had just returned from the outside to send off Ling Xiao, who was preparing to return to Redbud City. Elder Du knew that the youth in front of him wasn't that ordinary youth anymore. He was an invaluable noble. Baidu wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.